Chapter 350. Gu Ming felt a little guilty and shrunk her neck, saying, "Didn't you say that our cave is very safe and the children will be fine at home?" Elvis smiled. "I said, the wolf cubs are more important than me. Sandy is more important than the wolf cubs. What about me? In your heart, how many people are more important than me?" Gu Ming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed his face hard, saying, "Nonsense. Sandy is important, the babies are important, but you are the most important. In my heart, there is no one more important than you. Not a single one." Elvis carried Gu Ming and sat by the side of the burning wooden pagoda. His pale blue eyes looked an ambiguous orange because of the firelight. He raised his eyebrows and played with Gu Ming's fingers, saying, "Nina seduced me in front of you, but not only were you not angry at that time, it seemed like you even wanted to make space for her." Gu Ming recalled that something like that happened when she first arrived at the tribe, but Nina came looking like she was the official in charge of catching an adulterer. Who the hell knew if there was something going on between the two of them? If they didn't make space, would they have to buy tickets to watch? Did they? Why don't I remember? Yes, Elvis answered with certainty, then sighed. But once Nina bullied Sandy, you immediately rushed up to stand up for her. In order to help Sandy, you even threw yourself to the ground and acted pitiful. Gu Ming's mouth twitched, saying, "It's all in the past. Why are you still holding a grudge? Don't bring up the past. As a man, a wolf must be more broad-minded. It's a waste of brain cells to keep remembering small things in the past, isn't it? Right?" Elvis nodded as a form of agreement, then said, "Let's not talk about the past. Let's talk about the present." Gu Ming smiled apologetically, saying, "Yes, let's talk about the present. Life is so beautiful now. Look, hugging a soft and fragrant body. It's the glory of a wolf's life, isn't it?" Elvis laughed coldly, saying, "Sandy has 2 songs, one of which you have sung twice. But I only have one, and I've only heard it once." Gu Ming face-palmed. She continued, "Baidu, Baiki. Question, hubby is easily jealous, and it 1,000-year-old vinegar. How should I deal with it? Can I add some soy sauce to balance it? It's urgent. I'm waiting online." Elvis continued to speak slowly in a low voice. "Moreover, you are especially gentle towards Sandy. She will hug you whenever she wants to, but the moment I touch you, you will hide from me." Gu Ming coughed twice, choking on her own saliva. She really wanted to ask Elvis, "Doesn't your conscience hurt saying such things? When Sandy hugged her, it was really just a hug. Have you ever been obedient when you were hugging her? Think about how your 4 sons came to be. If she didn't hide, she would die on the bed. You just sang, she's your queen? You won't serve her and protect her happiness?" Elvis's face darkened even more. He was clearly near the fire, but he was so gloomy that ink could drip from his face. Gu Ming smiled awkwardly and wrapped her arms around Elvis's waist, saying, "Who said I don't want you to hug me? Aren't you hugging me now? Come, hug. Hug me all the time, all right?" The corners of Elvis's lips moved slightly. He raised his chin and tightened his arms, encircling Gu Ming. He took a deep breath and looked at Sandy, just short of writing the words, "I won," on his face. Aside from the topic, Gu Ming. Question, hubby is easily jealous and always fights with his best friend and son, but he keeps giving the green light to his ex-boyfriend. What should I do? It's quite urgent. Netizen question, I feel that your hubby giving the green light to your ex-boyfriend might be cheating on you. Chapter 351. Saint Nazir was in a frenzy for that night's revelry. Other than Gu Ming, Colin was the most popular person. Although he only stood behind Gu Ming and did some manual labor, his only line was the one where he proposed to Sandy, but it still caused a sensation. Deep in the night, Ian leaned against a tree and looked down at the revelry with an indifferent expression. Leah sat beside him and handed him a piece of roasted meat. "Do you mind if I don't let you show yourselves?" Ian didn't take the food from Leah. Instead, he fixed his gaze on the bashful figure in the leader's arms. That tiny figure had attracted everyone's attention the moment she appeared. It was as if she had a magical power that no one could resist. Is she really the messenger of the beast deity? Ian seemed to be doubtful and muttering to himself. Leah smiled. The food that allowed your tribesmen to survive the cold winter is still not enough to prove her identity. Ian didn't say anything. Why should he reply? Food, singing, and fire. Retracting his gaze, Ian glanced sideways at Leah. This is the reason why you were so confident back then. Leah nodded. The birds are the ones who yearn for the beast deity the most, isn't it? The arrival of the messenger means that all the birds in the beast world will flock to her. Once her identity is known, would there be anyone who would come to seek shelter? Ian nodded. Leah was right. The tribes that soared in the sky yearned to be close to the beast deity the most. Since that's the case, why did you choose us? After all, there are only 32 of us left in our tribe. Leah smiled. His gaze landed on the little figure who was playing around in Elvis's arms. She's a little willful and is the most unstable factor in all my plans. In order to deal with her sudden whims, I need to have more bargaining chips in my hands. Only then can I ensure that nothing goes wrong and let her be willful to her heart's content. Ian was taken aback for a moment. Then he laughed. So the Snow Fox tribe also has affections. I thought you guys are different from normal orcs and would not change because of females. Snow Fox tribe? Leah savored this form of address and smiled faintly. This tale is probably the only useful thing left to me by this tribe. With that, Leah did not bother about Ian anymore. He transformed into a fox and started running in the dark. His goal was clear and distinct. Ian stood on the spot, holding the roasted meat left behind by Leah in his hands. He watched as the white figure dashed through the night sky to the side of the bonfire and shamelessly waved his large tail in front of the little female to beg for her affection. His lips curled upwards as he said, "Messenger of the beast deity, Gu Meng Meng." 3 days later, Gu Meng Meng packed her luggage and prepared to leave the beauty pageant. She had wanted to bring Sandy along to play, but Sandy's injuries had not fully recovered. Moreover, she was still a newlywed with Colin. Gu Meng Meng was too embarrassed to separate her. She just smiled and poked at the black bear mark on Sandy's chest. She reminded her to be careful and not to make too big of a move to tear open her wounds again. If Leah was not around, no one would be able to help her. Sandy blushed and twisted her body in Gu Meng Meng's arms for a long time. In the end, Colin came and carried Sandy up. He said sternly, "Gu Meng Meng has something to do. Don't pester her and waste her time." Then, he pulled Sandy away from Gu Meng Meng's side. Gu Meng Meng looked at Sandy, who was clearly looking at her longingly, but still had her arms wrapped around Colin's neck obediently. She could not help but give Colin a thumbs up. "Not bad, Colin. You're a real man." Digression. Come, send out notice. Tomorrow morning, send out breakfast. Meat stew. How to eat meat. Readers. 492779-273 after entering the group. Find the corresponding administrator to provide a screenshot of the fan points for verification. Chapter 352. According to tradition, other than the partners of Sandy and Maya, the tribesmen of St. Nazir should follow the females who were participating in the beauty pageant. Firstly, it was to protect the prettiest female in the tribe. Secondly, if they met someone they fancied in the beauty pageant, they could just follow them. But this time, the situation was a little special. None of the males who followed them wanted to change tribes. Instead, they were all here to protect Gu Meng Meng with their lives. Originally, there were only 130 males in the tribe. Because of Nina, they lost over 40 males in one go. Although they did not have the mating mark and did not need to die even if Nina died. But no matter what kind of female Nina was, she was still the love of their lives. After Nina died, they sealed Nina's cave and buried all of them alive in the cave. Out of the remaining 80 over people, excluding Sandy's 9 partners and Maya's 15 partners, they could only bring out 60 over people. Gu Meng Meng also left Oakley and Bareed in the tribe. One was smart, and the other was strong. They could be considered as the imitation versions of Elvis and Leah. With the 2 of them in the tribe, together with the males from Sandy and Maya's families, there should be no problem in looking after the house. Gu Meng Meng originally wanted to bring all 4 of her sons along. But Elvis and Leah told her that the journey was long and bumpy. Other than meeting normal wild beasts, they might also meet stray beasts. If they met with danger, they would only protect Gu Meng Meng. If Gu Meng Meng wanted to bring the 4 little ones along, and if an accident happened, this was definitely a blatant threat. Gu Meng Meng clenched her teeth. In the end, she did not dare to bring her 4 sons along. So, she handed the 4 little ones over to their future mother-in-law Sandy to help take care of them. She especially instructed Sandy not to act out any restricted scenes in front of her children. If she were to lead her sons astray, she would break off all ties with them. After a day's journey, although Gu Meng Meng was carried or hunched by Elvis like an empress dowager and did not get off the ground at all, she was still extremely tired. Nestled in Elvis's arms, Gu Meng Meng frowned and said, "Sigh, what kind of lousy beauty pageant is this? Can I not go? Why is there no internet in this broken place? Why don't we just open a live broadcast and sing and dance at home? Just send out the location and we can choose whoever we want. That's it. I'm so tired." Elvis also felt sorry for Gu Meng Meng. In the past, when he sent Nina to the beauty pageant, she started complaining the moment they left the tribe. Unlike Gu Meng Meng, who only grumbled in his arms before falling asleep after walking for an entire day. Tomorrow we'll walk slower. If you're tired, you can tell me anytime. We can rest anytime. Elvis kissed Gu Meng Meng's little head and said gently, "Sleep. I'll guard you." Yeah. Gu Meng Meng found a comfortable spot in Elvis's arms and slowly fell asleep. Her thick eyelashes fluttered once in a while, and under the gentle moonlight, she looked like a fairy. Elvis stared at Gu Meng Meng's sleeping face. He did not even know how gentle he looked. He lightly caressed her little face with his hand, and the delicate touch on his fingertips made Elvis a little restless. Gu Meng Meng moaned and shook her head, as if she was unhappy that someone had disturbed her sleep. Just this small action caused the fragrance on her body to spread out in waves, making him even more mesmerized. Elvis could not help but recall the day they mated. She also fell asleep like this, in his arms, defenseless. That day, she had tormented him to the point of no return. Although he finally got what he wanted, but during the time she was asleep, thinking about this, Elvis's body started to heat up as if a ball of fire was burning uncontrollably in his body. It started from his chest and slowly moved downwards, stopping at his lower abdomen. Aside from the topic, there are 3,215 words of extra material, which was shared in the VIP group. Babies who have already entered the V group, please take it yourself. Babies who have not entered the VIP group, please join the reader group for 92779-273 to verify the fan value. Babies who have a fan value of 800 can be added into the VIP group by the administrator. Chapter 353. When Gu Meng Meng finally woke up from her dream, she realized that she was lying on Elvis's back and moving forward in the forest. The landform here was completely different from the place she had fallen asleep at. Rubbing her eyes, she sat up and asked, "How long did I sleep for?" Leah handed over a fruit that looked fresh and especially tempting. Gu Meng Meng took a bite, and it was so sweet that she felt like she was surrounded by happiness. Leah looked at Gu Meng Meng's satisfied look, and his gaze became gentle. He patted her head and said, "You have slept for a day and a half. How are you? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head blankly and instantly understood what Leah was saying. Her face turned red, and the fruit that she had just swallowed got stuck in her throat, causing her to choke and cough. Leah carried Gu Meng Meng up and used his knee to push against her stomach. He then patted her back, and Gu Meng Meng forcefully coughed out the fruit stuck in her throat. Her face was already extremely red. Elvis transformed into human form and took Gu Meng Meng from Lee's arms. He pried open her mouth and looked at her throat carefully. He sighed and said, "Be more careful next time and don't choke again, understand?" Gu Meng Meng nodded obediently and passed the fruit to Elvis. "Try it. It's really delicious." Elvis shook his head lightly and said, "This is for females to eat. It can alleviate the discomfort after mating." Gu Meng Meng was instantly petrified. The fruit in her hand no longer looked tempting. Instead, it was like a bomb that had started its countdown. She wanted to throw it, but was afraid that it would explode the moment it touched the ground. It's all right. Anyway, everyone knows that you have made it for a day and 2 nights, so you don't have to be shy. Just eat it. Leah smiled as he pushed the fruit to Gu Mingming's mouth. His smile was especially gentle, but there was an obvious cold glint in his eyes. I heard that your throat was hoarse from all the yelling that night. Eat some fruits with sufficient moisture to nourish your throat. Damn it, it shouldn't be a mistake to do OXX with her own husband, right? Why did she feel like she was being dragged to be paraded on the streets after having an affair? Gu Mingming turned her head and buried her face back into Elvis's chest, grumbling softly. I told you we can't do it outside. Look at you, so annoying. Elvis straightened his body and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his finger. His brows unknowingly touched together, and he looked at Gu Mingming with a hurt expression. Did I make you feel embarrassed? Gu Mingming was taken aback. She shook her head and said, What nonsense are you saying? How can I let others know about this kind of thing? How embarrassing. Elvis stared straight at Gu Mingming, his eyes filled with tenderness. His voice was low, as if he was a little sad, as he asked, On the day we mated, you said you wanted to announce our relationship to the world. Was it all a lie? Gu Mingming really regretted not letting the fruit choke her to death. Elvis seemed to lack a sense of security in certain aspects. It was as if he always felt that Gu Mingming would abandon him anytime. Gu Mingming did not know where Elvis's feeling came from, but she had experienced this kind of uneasiness before. Chapter 354. Elvis then smiled and kissed Gu Mingming's forehead gently. You slept for a day and a half and did not eat anything. Are you hungry? Gu Mingming rubbed her tummy and nodded with a smile. Elvis said, Stay here and wait for me. I'll go hunting. Gu Mingming held onto Elvis's arm, unwilling to let go. She looked at the 60 over tribesmen guarding at the side and said, Let them go. Can't you stay here and accompany me? Elvis gently stroked the stray hair beside Gu Mingming's ear and said, I have to prepare your food myself, because I don't want to give others the chance to fawn over you. Gu Mingming bashfully punched Elvis's chest and said with a red face, Annoying, Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's lips and said, Wait for me. I'll be back soon. If you meet with any danger, just hit our mating mark hard and I'll rush back. Gu Mingming nodded obediently and said, Then take care of your safety. Elvis smiled and agreed. Then he whistled, and a few hunting experts followed Elvis into the forest. Leah arranged for people to gather materials to start a fire and draw water to prepare for roasting meat. He swayed his furry big tail and leaned towards Gu Mingming. He supported his chin with his hand and looked at Gu Mingming from the corner of his eye. Gu Mingming remained silent for a while and turned to look at Leah. She said, Thank you for that night. Leah raised his brow and asked, Which night? Gu Mingming blushed and lowered her head. She fiddled with her fingers and said, You used the fox seductive fragrance on me, right? Leah was a little shocked, but only for a moment. He did not deny it, and only said, You found out? Gu Mingming nodded and said, Thank you for helping me reduce the pain, but I don't need it in the future. Why? Leah was puzzled and asked, The fox seductive fragrance only made the mating process between you and Elvis smoother. Other than adding some interest, it won't affect you much. Instead, it will make you suffer less. Why not? Gu Mingming smiled shyly. She thought for a while before replying. No matter how painful or sweet the process was, it is still a precious memory between us as husband and wife. The fox seductive fragrance makes me lose control of my mind, as if someone is controlling my body to hug Elvis. This feeling makes me very uncomfortable. Lee's smile froze for a moment before he nodded. I was being a busybody. I'm sorry. Gu Mingming shook her head and smiled. I don't mean to blame you. It's quite refreshing to do it once in a while. However, the novelty between husband and wife was just a temporary adjustment. True feelings for each other were the long-term solution. So, please don't use the fox seductive fragrance on me anymore, okay? Leah pursed his lips and smiled faintly. That won't do. Even if I don't want to use it when we mate in the future, I won't be able to control it. Gu Mingming knew that Leah had purposely said that to hide his disappointment. He should have already understood that between her and Elvis, there was no place for him. Not exposing him was Gu Mingming's last kindness to Leah. Standing up, Gu Mingming sat beside the fire. Her gaze drifted towards the direction where Elvis had disappeared to. She cupped her chin and waited for the silhouette of the black wolf to return. Elvis and the rest did not leave for long. It was just that when they returned, there was an uninvited guest in their group. When Gu Mingming stood up to welcome them, she saw half a head peeking out from behind Elvis, looking at her timidly. Moreover, there was an eyesore hand clutching tightly onto the edge of Elvis's beast skin dress. Aside from the topic, has Meaty Meaty finished watching? If you have, remember to vote for your ticket. Without the ticket, the next meal of Meaty Meaty would be so far away. No, this is not a threat. This is not a friendly negotiation. Chapter 355. Gu Mingming frowned, but before she could say anything, she heard Elvis glare at the person who was grabbing her high dress coldly and said, "I warned you before, don't touch me. I'm sorry. I'm just too scared. That person was scared out of her wits by Elvis. She hurriedly let go of her hand and took a step back, looking like she was about to cry. It was a pity that Elvis did not even look at her. Elvis heaved a heavy sigh, his face full of displeasure. Looking at his beast skin dress that had been scratched, he was in a terrible mood. Gu Mingming finally saw her full appearance after the female took a step back. Her dark green hair was draped over her shoulders, and she was wearing a simple hide on her upper body. It looked like it was torn and looked like it was going to fall at any moment, unable to cover her impressive fullness. Her lower body, snake? Gu Mingming was calculating in her heart. This pose, should she kneel down and worship 3 times, offer a joss stick and say Goddess Nuwa, or should she stand on a rock with a gourd on her head and shout Vixen, return my grandfather? Although the bullet screen mode had already been activated in her heart, Gu Mingming did not show any expression on her face. She pulled Elvis's pants in front of her and tidied up the hide that was slightly crooked because of the stranger's gentle pull. Her eyes were focused on her hands, and she asked in a neutral tone, "Hubby, who is she?" Elvis sharply felt Gu Mingming's anger. Although he did not know why, he knew that Gu Mingming was definitely angry. Could it be that Gu Mingming was hungry after being out for too long? Yeah, that must be it. She would not be in a good mood once she was hungry. Thinking about this, Elvis hurriedly explained, "Are you hungry? Don't worry. I have hunted a lot of prey, and I have already asked Darch to handle it. You can eat it soon." This was a rule that Elvis and Leah had personally set for Gu Mingming. All prey was not allowed to be brought back whole. After the male hunted the prey, he had to first use his claws to cut off the better meat and store it in his hide bag. Then he would finish off the meatless and hard-to-chew parts in the wild. After returning, he must first clean the food prepared for the female before bringing it back. He was not allowed to deal with the prey in front of the female, nor was he allowed to let the female know what the prey of the day was. However, the males would remember the meat that the females said was delicious and would find more for them in the future. Unfortunately, Elvis had misunderstood the main point. Gu Mingming's hand was still on Elvis's pants, but she looked up and stared at Elvis's face, asking, "Let me ask you, who is she?" Elvis looked back blankly at the terrified female, standing not far away, and said, "I picked her up on the road." Gu Mingming laughed coldly and said, "Tribe leader is really good at picking. First, you picked me, then you picked her. TSK. Females aren't that valuable in the beast world, yet you've already picked 2 of them so casually." Elvis was stunned for long, while before he suddenly laughed and pulled her into his arms. He asked excitedly, "Xiaoming, are you jealous? You're jealous, aren't you? You're jealous." Gu Mingming felt as if someone had stepped on her tail, and she exploded, "Eat your head." "I'm not." Elvis stiffened and sighed in disappointment. Every cell in his body was expressing his disappointment, and he said in a low voice, "Oh, I thought you would also mind if other females get close to me, just like..." Elvis's gaze drifted towards Leah. God knew how jealous he was of Gu Mengmeng rushing over to snatch Leah and Nina away when she knew they were going to mate. If one day Gu Mengmeng could also be jealous because of him, how good would that be? Chapter 356. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and pinched Elvis's waist harshly. She crooked her finger and gestured for Elvis to come closer. Although Elvis felt uncomfortable, he still obediently moved closer, thinking that Gu Mengmeng wanted to whisper something to him. In the end, Gu Mengmeng grabbed his ear and twisted it harshly. She placed one hand on her waist like a female yiksha and shouted, "Yes, I am jealous, so what? Let me tell you, Elvis, if you don't tell me who she is today, see if I'll let you off." Ouch, ouch, ouch. Pain, 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 pain. Elvis laughed as he cried out in pain. He looked a little silly, but was completely different for his bloodthirsty self in the forest. That female took a step forward and pulled Elvis's arm lightly, saying, "This beautiful little female, you have misunderstood the great tribe leader. He just saw injustice and saved me. There is nothing between us." Gu Mengmeng let go of Elvis and grabbed the female's wrist that was pulling Elvis. She twisted it outwards, and it was a simple female self-defense technique. She easily twisted the female's hand behind her back and leaned against her back. She whispered into her ear, "I'm a clean freak, especially when it comes to men. Whoever dares to stretch their claws towards my man, I will make sure that she will not be able to return." That female turned her head, and a cold light shone in her eyes. If Gu Mengmeng was not so close to her, she would not have noticed it. She only used a moment to retract her gaze and put on a pitiful look, saying, "You have really misunderstood me. There is really nothing between the great tribe leader and me. Sob, sob, sob. Why do you have to bully me like this? My hand hurts so much." Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and thought to herself, "Wow, you have some skills. All right, since I am bored, I will play with you." So Gu Mengmeng used her hidden strength to push the female forward. She seemed to be anticipating Gu Mengmeng to do that. Even her falling motion looked especially gentle and graceful. But what she did not expect was that Gu Mengmeng landed on the ground earlier than her, falling below her. Xiaomeng. Elvis dashed over like a gust of wind and pushed away the female that almost fell on Gu Mengmeng. He scooped Gu Mengmeng into his arms and examined her carefully. Leah reached Gu Mengmeng's side almost at the same time. He looked at the broken skin on her knee and turned his head, his long and narrow eyes filled with murderous intent. "No, it's not like that. That female was prepared to fall down, so even if she fell down, she would not be badly injured. But after being pushed by Elvis, she fell down hard. She had wanted to gain sympathy, but when she looked up, she met Lee's murderous eyes and was so frightened that she could not even speak properly. Sob, sob, sob. Elvis, you have a change of heart, haven't you?" Gu Mengmeng's punches landed on Elvis's chest like raindrops. Even with eye drops, it was obvious that she was faking her tears. But her clumsy acting made Elvis's heart ache, and he felt wronged. Other than shaking his head, he could not explain himself. He wanted to look at the wound on her knee, but she stood up stubbornly and limped forward. Her shoulders trembled as she said, "You brought a female back from the outside and pestered her in front of me. I only asked her who she was, and you allowed her to kill me? Sob, sob, sob. Elvis, you don't want me now that you have a new lover, am I right?" Aside from the topic, author Gu Mengmeng, did you graduate from an acting academy? Chapter 357. Sob, sob, sobs, it hurts so much. Gu Mengmeng hugged her knees and buried her face between her legs. Unable to squeeze out any tears, she could only shake her shoulders and turn herself into vibrator mode. "Xiaomeng, let Leah treat your injuries first, all right?" Elvis felt extremely helpless. No matter how precious a female was to the tribe, if he knew that bringing her back would make Gu Mengmeng so angry and upset, he would definitely not have brought her back. "Don't worry about it. Just go and coax your new lover. Do you still care about my life or death? We haven't even made it for a year, and you're already complaining that I'm getting old?" Sob, sob, sobs. "I'm not." Elvis was so anxious that he could not speak. After holding it in for a long while, he finally said, "How about I throw her back to where I picked her up? All right." Gu Ming Ming then stopped her vibrator mode and looked up at Elvis, asking, "Won't your heart ache to throw such a good female away?" Seeing that she was finally willing to raise her head, Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and hugged Gu Ming Ming back into his arms, coaxing her, "Other than my queen, I won't feel heartache for anyone else. Don't cry. Let Leah treat your injuries. I'll go and throw her away now." With that, Elvis sent Gu Ming Ming to Leah, then turned and walked towards that female with a black face. That female did not expect the plot to develop in this direction and was momentarily stunned. But she quickly reacted and grabbed onto the nearest male beside her, saying, "Warrior, please save me. If I'm thrown back into the forest, I'll definitely be caught by stray beasts again, and I won't be able to survive then. Sobs, sobs, sobs. Help me plead with the tribe leader, all right? Let me join your tribe. I can mate with you. I can mate with you now. Please save me." Tribe leader. That male was a little hesitant. He pushed the messenger of the beast deity and caused her to be injured. If it was a male, he would have been torn apart by the crowd. But females were really too precious. The tribe just lost a female. It's time to add another. Leah looked up at Gu Ming Ming and gave her a look. Then he continued, "Xiao Ming, can you forgive her for my sake this time?" Gu Ming Ming frowned. She looked at Leah, who was making faces at her, and muttered to herself, "Did he fall in love with her?" It made sense. Everyone in the tribe knew that he was her pet. Sandy and Maya would never mate with him. If he thought it through, he would have to find females outside the tribe. Based on his stubbornness towards Saint Nazir, it was impossible for him to change tribes. So the only path he could take was to mate with a new female. Gu Ming Ming twitched her lips, thinking that Leah really did not have good taste in women. But after all, this was his own life. Since she couldn't give him a promise, there was no reason for her to ruin his good fortune, right? Thus, Gu Ming Ming sniffled and stretched out her arms towards Elvis, saying, "Hubby, my legs hurt, I want a hug." Elvis understood that Gu Ming Ming had agreed to Lee's request. Chapter 358. Gu Ming Ming pouted and said, "Would you believe me if I said it's not painful?" Elvis kissed Gu Ming Ming's little face with heartache and said, "I'll feed you some good food later to nourish you." Gu Ming Ming nodded and nestled in Elvis's arms. She looked at the female, and their eyes met in the air. There was no verbal communication, and both of them looked like they were smiling. But only women could understand what the sparks in their eyes meant. That night, Leah arranged for a few males to protect the female, while he called Elvis to bring Gu Ming Ming into the depths of the forest in the night. Elvis and Leah had been through life and death situations for many years, and they did not need words to communicate with each other. This kind of tacit understanding was especially useful at times like this. "What's wrong? Not letting me sleep in the middle of the night?" Gu Ming Ming grumbled. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and held their breaths to listen for a while. After confirming that no one was eavesdropping, Leah then whistled towards the night sky. A huge owl spread its wings and flew over from the night sky, landing in front of Gu Ming Ming and Leah. Gu Ming Ming patted Leah curiously and said, "Ayo, not bad. When did you train owl? This physique, TSK, so cool." Gu Ming Ming wanted to tease the owl, but it shook its wings and turned into a human in front of Gu Ming Ming. Gu Ming Ming was taken aback. Even though she had seen this trick of turning into a living person many times, she still felt shocked every time. Looking at the tall and cold naked man in front of her, Gu Ming Ming awkwardly retracted her demonic claws in midair. She chuckled and returned to Elvis's arms without saying a word. The naked man took over the bee skin dress from Leah and said while wearing it, "I'm Ian, from the Eagle Owl tribe, not an owl." Gu Ming Ming put on an enlightened expression and smiled, saying, "Oh, you're Ian. I've heard a lot about you. Sorry for not recognizing you." Ian actually could not handle Gu Ming Ming's trick. He cleared his throat and turned to Leah, saying, "Don't worry. I've arranged for someone to watch over her. She won't have the chance to eavesdrop." Leah then nodded, then looked at Gu Ming Ming and said, "I'm afraid that female was sent by Sauter. Gu Mingming was a little surprised, but after thinking about it, Leah was after all a member of Sauter and a person of high status and authority, so he must be clearer than anyone else about Sauter's behavior. So, he didn't refute. After thinking for a while, he said, "So, you kept her here to keep an eye on her, not because you like her?" Leah paused for a moment and looked at Gu Mingming with his brows furrowed. He hooked Gu Mingming's chin with one hand and brought her little face closer to his. He looked straight into Gu Mingming's eyes with his long and affectionate eyes and said in a low and slow voice, "You suppress your temper to make her stay, not because you understood my gaze, but because you want to give me to her? Am I already such a burden, troublesome, and disgusting existence to you?" "No, no." Gu Mingming retracted her chin guiltily and hid in Elvis's arms. Leah staggered 2 steps back and smiled bitterly. "You can't be unfaithful 100 times. This logic, I understand it all. Even if you already know that Nina's matter is fake, you can no longer trust my feelings for you, right? In your eyes, I'm just a heartless man who can have any female, right? Aside from the topic, author, Gu Mingming, sometimes I really feel that you and Leah are quite compatible." "Gu Mingming, what do you mean?" "Author, both of you are schoolmates." "Gu Mingming, author, both of you graduated from acting academy, right?" "Sigh, I feel that just the two of you can act out Xiong Yao's version of the complete works of Shakespeare." Chapter 359. "I didn't mean it that way, Leah. I'm sorry." Gu Mingming felt a little guilty. She didn't know her thoughts would make Leah so upset. Leah glanced sideways and stared into Gu Mingming's eyes. "Compared to an apology, I want to hear your confession more. You know." Gu Mingming pursed her lips and said in a low voice, "I'm sorry." Leah sighed deeply and didn't continue. He just adjusted his emotions and changed the topic back to that unfamiliar female. "It's still 2 days' journey from here to Sauter. We don't know what else that female will do. We have to be more vigilant. Gu Mingming, you especially have to avoid getting close to her like today." Lee's gaze landed on the wound on Gu Mingming's knee. He frowned. "Don't let yourself get hurt again, or else we might go crazy." Gu Mingming nodded. "Don't worry, I will protect myself well. I'm just addicted to acting today. I'll spar with her." The 3 males looked at Gu Mingming blankly. They didn't seem to understand what she was saying. Gu Mingming twitched her lips. As expected, no matter how much time passes, males are always bad at judging bitches. Gu Mingming turned around and looked at Elvis. "Didn't you realize that she was pretending to be gentle, innocent, and pitiful the moment she came in?" Elvis shook his head. "I didn't notice." Gu Mingming laughed coldly. "Huh, your acting was in vain." Gu Mingming took a deep breath. She braced herself and straightened her body as if she was preparing to give a speech. "She pulled your beast-skin dress the moment she came in today, right?" Elvis was shocked. "I threw that beast-skin dress into the fire. You saw it." Gu Mingming patted his shoulder, gesturing for him to calm down. Then, she continued, "I only asked you who she was." Before you could answer, she ran out in a hurry to explain, saying, "You've misunderstood. There's nothing between me and the great tribe leader, right?" Gu Mingming pinched her throat to mimic that female's words. Elvis, Leah, and the rest did not laugh at all. They recalled seriously. After thinking for a long time, they still couldn't recall anything. They could only say calmly, "Seems so." Gu Mingming sighed again. "My acting was for nothing. Apart from me, no one else saw it." The 3 males looked at each other, then listened to Gu Mingming's analysis seriously and attentively, as if they were listening to an old driver talking about how he had flipped his car over and over again while driving. Gu Mingming cleared her throat and continued. "This is the most common opening line used by green tea bitches. On the surface, she looked like she was explaining, but in actual fact, she was purposely causing me to misunderstand." With that innocent and terrified expression, coupled with her little action of pulling Elvis's skirt, it was easy for me to suspect that something had already happened between them in the forest. A chill ran down Elvis's spine, and he instantly exploded. "Xiao Meng, I swear I didn't." I. Gu Mingming cupped Elvis's face with both hands and kissed him gently. "I know you didn't. I believe you." Only then did Elvis let out a long sigh of relief. His heart, which was hanging in his throat, finally settled down. With a lingering fear, she said, "Then why did you say that I had a change of heart today? I was so scared that I wanted to cut open my chest to let you see if my heart was filled with you." Aside from the topic, recommending a new article to the little darlings who were lacking in books, the reborn first daughter Rakshasa. In her previous life, although she was the first daughter of the Lin family, she did not wish to participate in those schemes. She only wished to live a peaceful and ordinary life. Even when she was bullied by others, she just wanted to keep the peace. She tolerated everything and kept a low profile. But in the end, she was still schemed against and trusted the wrong person. Not only did she lose her reputation and ended up with her corpse abandoned in the wilderness, she even implicated everyone who loved her to be imprisoned, never to be reincarnated. The moment before her death, she finally came to her senses and was filled with regret. Now, God had given her a chance to return to this world. Her biological father was unkind, and her sisters were unjust. Since that was the case, she might as well tear off this hypocritical veil and tear apart the scumbags and evil women. Those who bullied her, she would repay them 100 times over. Chapter 360. Gu Meng Meng placed her hand on Elvis's chest and said, "Whether you have a change of heart, you don't have to go through the trouble of cutting open your stomach. I just need to look into your eyes, and I will know." Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng in confusion, and when he met her clear eyes, he smiled. That's right, one's eyes could not lie. He could also easily tell how much Gu Meng Meng liked him from her eyes. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Gu Meng Meng then continued, "I made a scene today to give her a taste of her own medicine. I want to let her know that it's useless to play tricks with me. White and green, they're all leftovers from my play." The three males were dumbfounded again. They completely did not understand what Gu Meng Meng was saying. Elvis reached out to pluck a leaf from the side and passed it to Gu Meng Meng, saying, "Green, you can play with it first. I will help you find a new one tomorrow." Gu Meng Meng was taken aback for a moment before she started laughing. "Your IQ. Ha ha, you are indeed a husky." Elvis completely did not know what Gu Meng Meng was laughing about. But seeing her laughing so happily, the corners of his lips could not help but curl up. Gu Meng Meng laughed enough before continuing. "Green refers to a green tea bitch. This kind of person is most commonly seen in my world, pretending to be weak, innocent, pitiful, and ignorant. The green tea bitches in my world are much more experienced than her. With her acting skills today, she is just a beginner in my world. A newbie who can fight against 5 trash." Then White. Leah looked at his own tail and was a little worried. Gu Meng Meng said, "White refers to a white lotus, pretending to be the Virgin Mary, kind, pure, and loving. Not only can I not hate you if you kill my entire family, but I will also forgive you, protect you, take care of you, and influence you." The classic line is, "How could you do that? What's the difference between you and him?" It was as if everyone around her was mud, and they were the only white and flawless flower that was not tainted by dust. This kind of thing doesn't happen in real life where I come from, but I've seen a lot of them in TV dramas and novels. She's a self-taught person. She wants to compete with me, who has passed the 4th or 6th grade in palace dramas and has a double postdoctorate in romance novels. TSK, TSK, TSK. I'll give her 2 hands and 2 feet. I can stare her to death with just my pair of eyes. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances, deeply feeling that the war between females was far more terrifying than the war between males. What did they experience today? What did I miss this time? He felt as if he had walked through a bloody battlefield, but he didn't realize that he had almost died on the battlefield. F***ck me. It was so dangerous. Then what do we do next? For the first time in his life, Leah felt that his brain was not enough. This had already exceeded the limits of his understanding. The females in Sauter in the past, were there any like this? Gu Meng Meng shrugged and said, "It's not what we want, it's what she wants." Elvis frowned. "Since it's so troublesome, why don't we just chase them away?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "Even if we chase away a lunatic today, there will be another one tomorrow. Instead of guarding against someone who we don't know when they will appear beside us, why not guard against someone we already know? The more we know she has a problem, the more we have to keep her under our eyes. As long as we make use of her properly, it will be a good thing for us. This is also the reason why Leah wanted me to agree to let her stay today, right? Aside from the topic, author, son, TSK, you picked up a green tea bitch today. Elvis, I know. Author, how did you know? Elvis, my wife told me. Author, do you understand what your wife analyzed for you? Elvis shook his head, expressing, I don't understand. But whoever my wife says is a green tea bitch is a green tea bitch. I'll listen to my wife. Author, you're intelligent. You're indeed my son. Update completed for today. Continue tomorrow. Babies, please vote for Susu. Chapter 361. Smart. Leah smiled approvingly and tapped Gumingming's brow. You're indeed the great messenger. You got it right away. Gumingming understood what Leah meant. He was trying his best to ease the awkward atmosphere. No matter how upset he was, he did not want her to feel guilty. So Gumingming played along and wrinkled her nose. She pretended to be proud and said, I'm a very low-profile person. I don't like to worship others. Moreover, don't mention this kind of thing that the whole world knows about. Leah smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with love. He replied gently, The great messenger is right. Gumingming cleared her throat. You guys better tell me about the beauty pageant first. What should I do then? Gumingming looked up at Elvis. You've been there many times, right? Tell me, will they be competing in singing, dancing, or poetry? Elvis kissed Gumingming's raised face. They'll compete in eating. Huh. Gumingming was dumbfounded. Isn't it a beauty pageant? Why did it change to an eating contest? Elvis smiled. The biggest insecurity of a male in the beast world comes from the fear that his partner will not survive the winter. The stronger the male, the more afraid he is of this. This was because once the female died, the weaker males would definitely die due to the backlash of the mating contract. However, the stronger males might not die. Most of the time, not being able to die itself is an even greater torture. Gumingming remained silent for a moment. She hugged Elvis's neck and asked, Yeah, just like when you suddenly fainted when you were leveling up. I thought you were too seriously injured and could not survive. I felt extremely helpless then. I felt that if you were not around, my world would collapse. I don't know how I could survive without you in the beast world. Elvis's heart warmed at Gumingming's words. He kissed Gumingming's head and stroked her hair gently. I'll protect you. I'll always protect you. Gumingming nodded her head obediently. She continued, But what has this got to do with eating in a beauty pageant? Elvis adjusted his position so that Gumingming could sit more comfortably. He then replied, In the eyes of male, the way a female eats is the most beautiful. The more a female could eat, the more energy she could store before winter, and the higher her chances of survival during winter. Therefore, this is one of the most basic and important factors for males to choose a mate. Gumingming smiled awkwardly. She recalled how Elvis and Leah racked their brains to trick her into eating food previously and could not help but smile. So you guys have been trying to make me eat food the entire winter because you were afraid that I would not be able to survive and starve to death during the winter? Elvis nodded his head seriously and pinched Gumingming's tummy twice. He sighed regretfully and said, I didn't know you were pregnant at first and thought you had finally put on some weight. I was so happy, but you chased after me and beat me up for the entire day. You also looked very angry, and I didn't eat properly for 3 whole days. Gumingming's eyes widened. Gumingming face-palmed and said, We can store enough food before winter and eat slowly during the winter, so we don't have to eat ourselves into a ball. Look, last year we had salted meat, salted fish, potatoes, and sweet potatoes. Although it was a little monotonous, it was mainly because time was too tight and I did not have time to find more. This year, I have experience and can definitely prepare more food in advance. Winter is not a problem at all. So don't worry, I won't starve myself to death and leave you alone. Moreover, we still have a son. I still want to live to a ripe old age and watch my son marry a wife, aside from the topic. Chapter 362. Elvis automatically ignored the part about his son and only heard Gu Mingming saying that she would not leave him alone. He smiled blissfully and then hugged Gu Mingming tightly in his arms, whispering into her ear, "Remember this promise, do you understand? Never leave me alone." "Yeah." Gu Mingming hugged Elvis back, smiling blissfully and gently. Leah cleared his throat, coughed, and said, "Mingming, about that female, do you want to ask someone to send her back to St. Nazaire now, or bring her?" Gu Mingming said without hesitation, "Comparing eating, even 8 of me can't beat one Sandy. Those who came to participate in the beauty pageant are all the eating generals from the tribes. It's not enough even if I become a force-fed duck. That female, haha, just in time to use her." "You want her to participate in the beauty pageant for you?" Leah asked. Gu Mingming stretched out a finger and shook it, saying, "No, she will only participate in the Eating King segment. As for recruitment, I have other plans." "Recruit?" Elvis and Leah were no longer surprised by Gu Mingming spitting out new words from time to time. They just looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, waiting for her explanation. Gu Mingming smiled like Zhou Bopi, with a cunning look on her face, shrugging her shoulders and shining eyes. She looked like an evil capitalist thinking of how to exploit the poor commoners. To be more specific, it was a little like the landlord in QQ Fight the Landlord. Ever since I came to the beast world, I have been doubting my own worth. I have regretted more than 800 times why I chose human resource management as my major in the first place. Why didn't I learn carpentry, metallurgy, or medicine? Now I understand. I was born with a talent that has a use. It has a use. My major is prepared for the annual large-scale blind date. Oh no, the large-scale job fair. Gu Mingming put on a look as if the heavens were pitying her, and she could finally show off her ambitions, saying with a smile, "A large number of talents, beast talents? They are strong males, looking for a tribe that suits them in this beauty pageant. Isn't this the same as looking for a job in the job market? It's just that the way you guys look for a job is too random. Whether the job is good or not depends on how much the female eats. This is not scientific. It's not scientific at all." "Then you mean?" Leah pressed on. Gu Mingming chuckled and said, "I have my own plans. You guys won't understand even if I tell you. In short, Lil Miss will combine the theories I learned with reality to create the most suitable recruitment plan. As for the rest of you, as long as you believe, don't ask." "Okay." Elvis, Leah, and Ian looked at each other, then mimicked Gu Mingming's gesture of okay and said, Oh, as for that female, as long as she's not an idiot, she should know that she's no match for me after today's battle. As long as she knows her place, St. Nazaire won't be short of food from her. But if she dares to play dirty with me, I see that the snakeskin pattern on her lower body is unique and exquisite, and I have never used a wallet made of nua skin." Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. They were already used to Gu Mingming's ruthless word from time to time, but if they really asked her to skin them, she would probably be more cowardly than anyone else. However, the fact that she had taken a fancy to the female's tail, the two of them had already firmly remembered it. Aside from the topic, someone asked me, will the things in the introduction happen? Chapter 363. Gu Mingming looked at Ian and then at Leah, asking, "Has Ian been following us all this while?" Leah nodded his head as a reply. "Since he has already joined the tribe, why didn't he directly walk with us?" Leah smiled and said, "His route is different from ours. They walk above." As Leah said, he pointed at the top of their heads. Gu Mingming reacted, "It was indeed inhumane to force a bird to give up on the sky and walk on 2 legs." She smiled awkwardly and asked again, "Then what do you guys eat on the way? Did you bring enough food?" Ian was surprised. He looked at Gu Mingming and then at Leah. Seeing that Leah was indicating for him to explain to Gu Mingming, he hesitated for a moment, but still opened his mouth. "As long as it's not winter, we have plenty of food everywhere." Gu Mingming tilted her head and looked at Ian, asking, "What do you guys eat? Is it like an owl?" Ian tilted his head to the side, as if he was a little embarrassed, as if he was not too willing to answer Gu Mingming's question. Leah used his hand to cover half of his lips, moving closer to Gu Mingming's ear in a flirtatious manner, using a volume that everyone could hear to whisper, "I don't know what an owl eats, but I know what he eats." "What does he eat?" Gu Mingming's eyes shone with a thick spirit of gossip. Leah sneered and did not answer Gu Mingming's question. Instead, he looked at Ian and said, "If there's really something wrong with that fellow, remember to leave the skin on her tail when you guys eat her." Gu Mingming said she likes it. Ian pursed his lips and looked at Leah. He did not say a word and just transformed into an eagle owl, flapped his wings twice and flew up close to the ground, disappearing into the night in less than 2 breaths. Gu Mingming's smile froze on her face. She turned her head and asked Leah, "They eat humans?" Lee's gaze was calm as he fiddled with a small tuft of fur on the tip of his tail. "I have already reported to the beast deity that these 32 people from the Eagle Owl tribe will protect you in the name of Yongyi. If Elvis and I are your fangs and claws, Barit and Colin are your armor and shield, then these 32 people from the Eagle Owl tribe are your wings, hiding in the darkness to protect you, to bring you wherever you want to go, and to remove obstacles for you. If they threaten you, even if it's me and Elvis, they will use all means to bring us up to the sky and tear us into pieces. They will never forgive us." 2 words popped up in Gu Mingming's mind out of nowhere. Embroidered uniform guards? Where the rod is stuck. Leah looked at Elvis and saw that he was also confused, so he asked, "What is that?" Gu Mingming explained, "It's an organization that is not loyal to the country, but loyal to the emperor himself. They are not under the jurisdiction of the imperial court and directly take orders from the emperor. There's no right or wrong. They don't question right or wrong and only obey the emperor's orders." Leah nodded as he listened and smiled. "Embroidered uniform guards is better than Yongyi. Why don't we change the name of the Eagle Owl tribe to Embroidered Uniform Guards?" Chapter 364. Gu Mingming did not know that Ian had secretly returned to his original spot after flying 1 round and was hiding on the tree above her head. Therefore, he had heard every single word that she had said. Ian's eyes flashed in the darkness, and he chuckled. He had indeed found a good backer for his clansmen. Shouldn't they have the fate of hiding in the shadows and not being able to see anyone? He had never dared to make such a promise to his own clansmen. That day, when Gu Mingming and the rest returned from the forest, they bumped into a heated scene. The new female snaketail was wrapped around a male's body, and the male's hands were tightly hugging the female's upper body. The 2 of them were performing an indescribable movement in a magical posture. Gu Mingming stared with her eyes wide open for 2 seconds before burping. She then turned around and buried her face into Elvis's shoulder, saying softly, "My eyes hurt, my eyes hurt." Leah looked at Gu Mingming in confusion, then took out a chili from his bee skin bag and passed it to Gu Mingming, saying, "It's not dried yet. I found it on the road. The effect might not be as good as what you eat during the winter, but it should work. Who do you want to spit? Can I help you?" Gu Mingming looked at the chili in Lee's hands and was stunned for a while before she reacted. Leah had told her that they had grinded the chili into powder and scattered it on their enemies' faces in the winter when he gave her the chili in the cave. Gu Mingming had jokingly said that this move was called spicy eyes. It was just a joke, and she did not expect Leah to remember it. However, the current situation was not suitable for him to explain these things. Gu Mingming took the green chili from Lee's hands and took a bite. After chewing a few times, she patted Elvis's back and said, "The scene is too beautiful. I don't dare to look. Let's sleep somewhere else." Elvis knew that Gu Mingming had some special rules when it came to mating, but he thought that she just did not like others to see her mating. Now that he saw it, she did not like to see others mating either. Elvis glanced at the orcs who were mating with the half-orc female, Snake, and laughed in disdain. "There's really nothing to see. How about I throw them further away? I won't disturb your sleep." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "Sigh, doing bad things is like killing one's parents. It's too immoral. Forget it. Let's just change places." Elvis thought about it and asked, "Isn't disturbing one's sweet dreams like killing one's parents?" Why do bad people do good things like killing their parents? Gu Mingming remembered that she had shouted this sentence when Nina was disturbing her sleep outside the cave. At that time, Nina said that she was looking for Leah in her cave. Gu Mingming laughed bitterly, thinking to herself how many holes had she dug for herself with her mouth. If he were to explain them one by one, well, there was no need to change the location. The at the back could be used as background music. He reckoned that after he finished explaining the nonsense that he had said in the past, the accompaniment would probably stop. How the F***CK should I start with? Welcome everyone to Gu Mingming's Nonsense Lecture Hall. Today's BGM is a unique live mating poem recitation with a hint of coquettish vibe. Gu Mingming shuddered and twitched her lips. Bring me to wash my eyes first. If I stay here any longer, my eyes will become useless. By then, corns will grow. TSK, I'll have to dig them out. Elvis was taken aback. He did not expect things to be so serious. Gu Mingming's eyes would become useless when she saw others mating. It was only until Elvis, who was burning with anxiety, brought Gu Mingming to the stream to help her wash her eyes. But instead, Gu Mingming tore off his bee-skin dress and threw herself into the stream. She looked at him from head to toe in a lustful manner that he finally understood how to wash his eyes. Chapter 365. The next morning, when Gu Mingming returned to the campsite in Elvis's arms, there were already 4 to 5 males sitting around the half-orc female. Seeing this scene, Gu Mingming could not help but exclaim, "So damn efficient. Great messenger, hello." The half-orc female came forward and bowed to Gu Mingming. She looked so docile and respectful, totally not looking like she was playing tricks with Gu Mingming yesterday. Gu Mingming returned the same gentle smile and said, "Since we're on the same side, you don't have to be so polite. You can just call me Gu Mingming like everyone else." "How can I do that? You're the honorable great messenger," the half-orc female said in a panic. Gu Mingming squinted her eyes and smiled. She thought to herself, to keep saying the words messenger of the beast deity, she was obviously afraid that she would not attract enough attention, right? Back then, that idiot Nina only spread her suspected identity as the messenger of the beast deity, and she almost died under Dumbo's claws. TSK, TSK, TSK. Such a gentle knife. She was trying to push her to the heart of the struggle. But it was a pity that Gu Mingming did not intend to hide her identity as the messenger of the beast deity, or else she would not have participated in this eating contest under the guise of a beauty pageant. "You want to play? Let's play then." Gu Mingming patted Elvis's shoulder and gestured for him to put her down. Then she walked slowly to the front of the female and sized her up, asking, "What's your name?" "Ellie." The half-orc female answered respectfully. Gu Mingming nodded and asked again, "Ellie, yesterday, how many males in our tribe did you mate with?" Ellie turned back shyly and looked at the males surrounding her. She answered for, Gu Mingming nodded approvingly while continuing to size her up. Ellie lowered her head shyly and said, "Although I'm just a half-orc female, I will still fulfill my obligation to mate for the tribe. As long as they don't despise me for being a half-orc, I will give them a chance to prove their loyalty to me." Gu Mingming gestured for him to stop and frowned in deep thought. She asked, "You mated with 4 males, then what about your mating mark?" Allie's brows drooped, looking like a delicate and pitiful little white flower. She bit her lower lip and did not speak, as if she was about to cry. Reporting to Lord Envoy, Ellie's first partner, the one she caught yesterday to plead with Elvis, stood in front of Gu Mingming and gently hugged Ellie's shoulders to comfort her. Then, he explained for Ellie with a face full of heartache. "Our mating mark is on Ellie's tail. Because it was a half-beast, it was covered by the snake scales and could not be seen. Because of this, Ellie has been upset for the whole night yesterday. So, great messenger, please don't ask anymore." "Oh." Gu Mingming nodded with a look of sudden realization. She thought to herself, "Little guy, you have some tricks up your sleeves. You managed to win people's hearts so quickly." However, this didn't seem to require any special methods. Looking at Quentin, It was obvious how blind the males in the beast world were towards love. Chapter 366. Ellie was taken aback. She thought that Gu Meng Meng would expose her so that she could cry and pretend to be pitiful to gain the favoritism of most people. But why didn't Gu Meng Meng follow the script? Ellie's first partner grinned and comforted Ellie. See, I told you that the Great Messenger is easy to get along with. We have a half-beast female bear in our tribe who was always bullied, but the Great Messenger never looked down on her, and even became best friends with her and always took care of her. Ellie quickly tidied up the shock on her face and changed into a harmless and weak look. She nodded and smiled at Gu Meng Meng, saying, "Great Messenger, you are really a good person." Ding dong, Gu Meng Meng received a good person card. Gu Meng Meng laughed coldly. Damn it, she really didn't expect that the first good person card of her life was given by a coquettish and cheap green tea bitch. Gu Meng Meng remained calm and patted Ellie's shoulder, saying, "Don't worry, Saint Nazir is a tolerant tribe. You just have to stay in the tribe and live a good life." "Yeah, I will." Ellie smiled brightly, but it did not match her snake tail at all. Gu Meng Meng did not say anything more and just turned around to return to Elvis's arms. Nothing much happened during the day's journey, but when night fell, Ellie's mating operation started again. Gu Meng Meng found an excuse to leave with Elvis and Leah, while Ian naturally followed them secretly. After walking to a sufficient distance, Gu Meng Meng then spoke. "Leah, tell the tribesmen that I don't wish to see more people mating with Ellie." Leah nodded and did not ask why. Elvis looked at Ian again and asked, "Ian, snakes, are they one of your food sources?" Ian nodded and did not say a word. Gu Meng Meng asked again, "Then do you have a certain level of understanding towards snakes?" Ian still only nodded. Gu Meng Meng continued, "When I held her hand today, did you see her tail?" Ian nodded again, and after a moment of silence, he finally opened his mouth and said, "When you approached her, her tail started to tremble. That is the sign of an attack. She wants to kill you." The last four words undoubtedly touched Elvis and Lee's reverse scale. The surrounding atmosphere instantly froze. The two of them exchanged glances and made a decision. Gu Meng Meng gently raised her hand and said, calm down. Analyze it, all right?" Lee's fingertips were slightly cold as he hooked Gu Meng Meng's chin lightly. He frowned and said, "No matter how useful she is, we cannot use your safety as the price. So we can't keep this Ellie. Didn't you say she was sent by Sauter?" Gu Meng Meng said, "Think about it. Sauter calls itself the Messenger's tribe, but a messenger's tribe without messengers is destined to be annihilated. So Sauter's motive should be to obtain me and not to kill me. A dead messenger would be useless to Sauter, right? Since Ellie is from Sauter, not only will she not kill me, she will also protect me in danger." Chapter 367. But Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "Maybe her tail shaking today was just her instinct. After all, females are precious, and she has already mated with the males in our tribe. If we want to kill her, we will have to sacrifice our tribesmen. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it." Leah was silent and speechless. But Elvis spoke up. From the moment they chose to mate with Ellie, they placed their fates in the hands of that female. This is their own decision, and no one else has anything to do with it. Gu Meng Meng cupped Elvis's face and kissed it, saying, "I know you are worried about me, but Ellie is not Nina. Before she does anything substantial, I don't want to kill the innocent. Moreover, I want to use her to catch the big fish." Elvis thought about it and nodded silently. He then turned around and broke off a branch that was as thick as an arm from a tree beside him and said, "I will tie her here for you to fish tomorrow. Is that all right?" Gu Meng Meng face-palmed and said, "Hubby, I don't want to catch the fish in the water, but the people behind her, so, I don't think I have to use this branch anymore." Elvis felt a little regretful. He was still hoping that after she finished fishing, Ellie would have no more value to him, and he could get rid of her as soon as possible. Leah looked at Gu Meng Meng and asked, "You want to use Ellie to lure the people from Sauter out?" Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "Correct. How to lure them out?" Leah frowned and had a bad premonition. Gu Meng Meng didn't answer Lee's question and just asked with a smile, How far are we from Sauter now? Lee's gaze was cast in a direction, and he was silent for a moment before saying, About half a day's journey. We should be able to reach by tomorrow afternoon. Gu Mingming looked at Lee's nostalgic gaze and couldn't bear to see him like this. She asked, This is your first time back to Sauter? Leah shook his head and then nodded, saying, When St. Nazaire was first established, Elvis and I came here once. But we didn't enter the city and just left after saving Maya at the periphery. After that, Elvis would bring people to escort Nina to the beauty pageant every year while I stayed at St. Nazaire to look after the house. Gu Mingming nodded and patted Lee's shoulder lightly. If you feel that it's too much, you don't have to accompany me in. But Leah smiled. His long and narrow eyes became gentle and determined when he met Gu Mingming's gaze. His voice was low and he spoke slowly. He enunciated each word clearly. I'm not going in with you. I only have the courage to face that place with you around. Gu Mingming smiled. Perhaps it was because the moonlight was too gentle, so her smile was exceptionally tranquil. His voice was like the melody of flowing moonlight. His ears could not hear it, but his eyes could see it clearly. His heart could feel it. It's my honor, Gu Mingming said. Elvis hesitated for a moment, but still decided to break the beautiful silence. He frowned and said, Leah, before you left Sauter, were there people from the Snake Tribe in Sauter? Chapter 368. Elvis nodded, then continued, I also find it strange I've never seen anyone from the Snake Tribe in any tribe, and I have a strange feeling toward her. It's very familiar, just like a stray beast. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in confusion, asking, There are female stray beasts? Isn't it said that females are very precious, and every tribe is fighting for them? Elvis replied, That's usually the case, but there are exceptions like Nina. Gu Mingming was taken aback. Then she frowned and said, Don't tell me that the reason she doesn't have a mating mark is not because she's a half-beast, but because she's the same as Nina, a female who washed off her mating mark and was abandoned by the beast deity? Elvis nodded, and after a moment of silence, he replied, Other than being abandoned by the beast deity like Nina, without a mating mark, there's another situation. Elvis's gaze dimmed, as if his heart was very heavy. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in confusion, then turned to look at Leah. Leah shook his head at her, indicating that he did not know what was wrong with Elvis. Hubby? Gu Mingming wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck, using her forehead to gently touch Elvis's, saying gently, Did you think of something bad? If you don't want to say, you don't have to force yourself. Elvis used his hands to hold Gu Mingming's singlet and pushed her towards him, taking a deep breath, filling his nostrils with her fragrance. After soothing the discomfort in his heart, he then continued, The other situation is when a female is snatched away by a stray beast, and after mating, she gives birth to a cub. In this situation, the cub is born as a stray beast, so there's no way to leave a mating mark. Gu Mingming saw an obvious emotion in Elvis's eyes, one that was more profound than sadness and more profound than pain. It was an indescribable complexity, causing her heart to stop for a moment. Without saying anything, she just hugged Elvis's neck tightly, using her entire body to fill his embrace. Just like me. Elvis hugged Gu Mingming back tightly, mustering his courage to say these 5 words. His identity was not a secret in the tribe, and he had never been afraid of revealing his background. Until he met her, he was afraid that she would despise him because of his life, alienate him, avoid him, and so he was always humble in front of her, always cautious, always worried about personal gains and losses. For the first time, he felt that admitting that he was a natural stray beast required so much courage. At that moment, he did not even dare to look into Gu Mingming's eyes. He was afraid of seeing her disgust, afraid that she would say that she wanted to abandon him. Fool, you have me and our 4 sons. You have a family. How can you be a stray beast? Elvis's heart skipped a beat, and he could even hear the sound of his blood boiling. I didn't tell you my identity before mating. You don't blame me? Elvis furrowed his brows tightly. Every word he asked sounded as if he was treading on thin ice. Gu Mengmeng exhaled and laughed. She placed her hands on Elvis's shoulders and looked into his eyes, asking, "Before you mated with me, did you have any special female friends?" Hearing her strange sentence, Elvis frowned and shook his head. "Other than Leah, I don't have any friends." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis ambiguously with an "I understand" expression, then looked at Leah with an evil smile. Chapter 369. Since you didn't cheat or come out of the closet before marriage, why should I mind? Gu Mengmeng smiled casually, her clear eyes emitting a light that was gentler than the moonlight. She shone down a layer of radiance, lighting up Elvis's heart that had been sealed in ice for a long time. Those unbearable, cold and dark memories seemed so insignificant in front of her smile. "But I was once a vagrant fool." Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's face with both hands and looked into his eyes seriously, saying, "Before we met each other, we were all vagrants. Luckily, you found me and I found you. Then, we became each other's hometown, no longer having to wander from place to place, no longer having no one to depend on. Every piece of land we walked hand in hand was filled with poetry and distance." Xiao Meng. Elvis leaned forward and kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply. Heaven knew that from the moment he fell in love with her, he had always been worried that his identity would become the reason for her to abandon him. And this reason now seemed so pale, so laughable, so. If all the hardships and torments in the past were to meet her, then it was too worth it. Even if the past were to repeat itself 100 times in exchange for female happiness, Elvis felt that it was worth it. So, the beast deity did not abandon him. He was only testing him, training him, and now, he gave the best to him. After the kiss, Gu Mengmeng slapped Elvis's head, raised her chin, and said, "Call me queen." Elvis was instantly dispelled by Gu Mengmeng's slap. He smiled helplessly and shook his head, but his heart was filled with warmth. He knew that Gu Mengmeng was using this method to pull him out of his sadness. But what she didn't know was that his sorrow had already vanished into thin air in her smile. The moment Gu Mengmeng said that she did not care about the past, it no longer had any meaning. Holding Gu Mengmeng's little hand, Elvis planted a kiss on the back of her hand and said sincerely, "Yes, my queen." Gu Mengmeng nodded approvingly, then snuggled back into Elvis's arms. That was her exclusive throne. Then, she looked up at Elvis and asked, "So you suspect that Ellie is the child of a stray beast?" Elvis nodded and said, "I can't rule out this possibility." Leah continued, "After returning home yesterday, I specially observed Ellie carefully. She really matches the characteristics you mentioned. And these were things that females in the beast world would never do. The circumstances of their lives made it impossible for them to conceal their true intentions. Because no matter what they want, the males will agree. As for Ailey, she's too understanding and impeccable." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Unfortunately, perfection itself is the biggest flaw." This was the first time Leah had heard of this theory. He was stunned for a moment and pondered over it. He did not reply and just smiled. The next morning, when Gu Mengmeng and the gang returned to the campsite, Ellie's males had increased from 4 to 9. Gu Mengmeng praised Ellie's positive attitude towards solving the problem of mating in the tribe and encouraged her to continue working hard in the upcoming beauty pageant to win more followers for the tribe. Perhaps only Ellie's 9 partners, who did not know the truth, believed it to be true. Out of topic, today's update is over. Continue tomorrow at 9. Chapter 370. The hidden daggers between Gu Mengmeng and Ellie had already started to show. Because other than the 9 males that Ellie had already mated with, she could no longer seduce any other tribesman from St. Nazaire. Or rather, under Lee's guidance, Ellie's 9 partners became nervous. No matter what Ellie needed, the 9 of them would cooperate with each other to complete it quickly, not giving her any chance to extend an olive branch to anyone else. And although Ellie was furious, she still maintained her innocent demeanor and did not dare to show her dissatisfaction. According to Lee's prediction, They arrived at Sauder in the afternoon. Standing at the entrance of the messenger's tribe, Gu Mingming looked up at the horizontal board on the two wooden pillars. The 4 words, Messenger's Tribe, were written in a sage-like manner. It was just that it had been a long time and had been weathered badly. Gu Mingming felt that if she were to sneeze here, the horizontal board could be shattered into dust and blown away by the wind, never to be seen again. Elvis did not know how to read, and just followed Gu Mingming's gaze upwards. It was just a piece of broken wood with a few scratches from claws. He did not know what was so nice about it. But Gu Mingming had always been fond of unusual things, and he was already used to it. So he asked softly, "Do you like it?" Gu Mingming snapped out of her trance and looked at Elvis's face. She calmed herself down and smiled. "No, it's just that I haven't seen simplified Chinese characters for a long time. It's a little familiar." Leah frowned and looked at Gu Mingming, asking, "You recognize the markings on it?" Gu Mingming did not answer but asked back, "You don't?" Leah shook his head and said, "This wooden board was left behind by the previous messenger. Other than her, no one knows what it means." Gu Mingming asked in surprise, "You guys don't know how to read? Then what do you guys think of those ancient books that you mentioned in the past?" Leah said, "Ancient books are for worship and not for reading." Gu Mingming, Leah said, "The contents of the ancient books are all passed down from father to son, son to grandson, generation after generation. So when it reached my generation, there aren't many left. Or else." Lee's gaze drifted towards the interior of Sauder. His gaze was deep and cold, as though it was calm, but his heart was already in turmoil. His thin lips parted slightly, still smiling, but every word seemed to have the weight of 1,000 gold. He said sonorously, "How could I be so easily tricked by them back then?" Gu Mingming patted Lee's shoulder and said, "Revenge is a dish best served cold. Now that we're here, we might as well help you take revenge." Gu Mingming pointed at the severely weathered signboard and smiled slyly. "I know these words. I will read them to you from the ancient books later." Leo was taken aback, but his gaze immediately turned gentle. He smiled and said, "All right." Gu Mingming took the initiative to hold his hand. "Hubby, let's go." Elvis carried Gu Mingming up and used the bee skin to cover her little head, trying his best not to expose her face. But even so, the group still caused quite a commotion when they entered Sauder. If not for Elvis and Leah exuding a strong aura along the way, the 3 of them would have been surrounded to the point where they could not move an inch. And beside Ellie, who was just a few steps away, other than the 9 males who had already mated, there was not even a single foreign fly. A snake's eyes were poisonous, after all. Perhaps it was unintentional, but it was hard to change one's nature. Aside from the topic, recommending 111P for support, Overlord Pet. Q Queen is too mischievous. A beautiful sheep fell from the sky, and someone on the ground turned into a wolf. Emo Shuyong. Sheep the war went on. The country was saved, but was captured by the enemy leader in the end. Captured to be a manservant? Serving tea, cleaning the backyard, coaxing a bunch of drama queen women was one thing. But he had to be in charge of warming the bed? Damn it, there were so many women in the backyard. But he had to pester his mother. Was there something wrong with his brain? Sita Lang, wolf, woman. This king is very interested in the cat you're raising, called Duo La Whatever Dream. He wanted to be a cat lover, but in the end, he became a wolf that ate sheep. Sheep, I realize that you're more adorable and easier to bully than that cat. A certain sheep was roaring in his heart. Sheep, I'm not a wolf. Do you believe me? Chapter 371. If there was anything in the messenger's tribe that made Gu Mingming happy, it would probably be the houses. This place was different from St. Nazaire. No one lived in a cave, or rather, the locals of Sauder and the females who came to participate in the beauty pageant did not need to stay in a cave. There were old houses that resembled those in an old village, built with pieces of huge green stone bricks. Honestly speaking, it really could not be considered luxurious. If it was in a modern world, it would either be a cultural heritage that was being protected or an endangered building with a big red demolition sign. But in this place, it already showed the difference and superiority of the messenger's tribe. Are you representing Saint Nazir to participate in the beauty pageant? A guard at the entrance of the stone house asked Elvis, who was standing in front of him. Yes, Elvis replied. The guard glanced at Leah and did not say a word. He just turned his body to the side to let them in, indicating that they could enter. After entering the house, Elvis placed Gu Meng Meng on the stone table at the side, before he and Leah started to clean the house. The house was very simple, just a simple little house. In the modern world, the layout of a child's house was much more lively than this house. It was not that Gu Meng Meng was picky, but this little house was not even half the size of her dormitory. Now that the three of them were inside, it was already a little cramped. If either Elvis or Leah transformed into their original forms, they would probably directly break the frame of this dilapidated house. There was a stone bed in the room. The surface was full of bumps and hollows, but the edges were abnormally smooth. It was not an exaggeration to say that this damn bed had been slept into paste. Elvis and Leah took out a piece of tiger skin and laid it on the bed, before arranging Gu Mengming's little pillow. The giant rabbit skin quilt was neatly folded at the side. After settling everything, Elvis carried Gu Mengming to the bed and said, "It's been a tough journey for you. Take a rest first. I will bring my tribesmen to the cave at the back of the mountain to rest, and help you bring food back." Gu Mengming nodded and said, "Then be careful and come back quickly." Elvis kissed Gu Mengming's forehead lightly, then exchanged a look with Leah. Without saying anything else, he turned around and left. Gu Mengming dangled her feet on the bed in boredom as she watched Leah place the fruits he picked on the way on the table in an orderly manner. Then he took out the clothes that Gu Mengming needed to change into for the next few days and checked them one by one. Those that had problems were immediately remedied, and those that had no problems were folded and placed at the side. He was in a relaxed and natural state, as if he did not feel any discomfort after returning to solder. On the contrary, Gu Mengming was not used to being alone with Leah like this. She cleared her throat and asked, "That you shouldn't have been recognized, right? I think they're all quite normal. It shouldn't be possible for someone to suddenly rush in with soldiers to capture you, right?" Leah smiled and tilted his head to look at Gu Mengming. The first beauty of a tribe lives in every stone house here. If you create trouble here, you will be offending all the tribes at the same time. Even Solder would not dare to do such a reckless thing, so what you are worried about will not happen. Don't worry. Oh, Gu Mengming responded, but felt that something was wrong. She thought for a while and looked up. So they recognized you? Chapter 372. Gu Mengming laughed coldly and said, "Do you believe that it's a coincidence that this person is guarding the door?" Leah shook his head and said, "There are no coincidences in solder." Gu Mengming nodded and said, "So, our every move has long been monitored by someone. That person is just here to make the final confirmation." Leah should be. Gu Mengming jumped down from the bed and walked to Lee's side. She leaned against the table and crossed her arms in front of her chest, asking, "What do you plan to do next? You can't just sit and wait for death, right?" But Leah gave a faint smile and said, "They probably don't have time to care about me now." Gu Mengming raised her eyebrows and said in a slightly tsundere tone, "That's true. The messenger of the beast deity who has been waiting for 1,000 years has descended. Naturally, they don't have time to care about you, the exiled Ninth Highness." "Why? Do you want me to use my identity as the messenger of the beast deity to help you vent your anger?" Leah supported his cheek with one hand and looked at Gu Mengming from the side. After a long time, he slowly opened his mouth and said, "You are worried about me, right?" Gu Mengming smiled awkwardly. She had finally calmed down from the strange atmosphere of being alone with her ex-boyfriend in a room, but Lee's words pulled her back again. Shrugging her shoulders, Gu Mengming retreated back to the bed step by step and sat properly. She smiled and said, "Never mind if you don't need it. Just treat it as me being nosy. You are so smart, you must have thought of a complete solution and don't need me to worry, right? Haha. I really love to worry for no reason." Leah turned around, and his gaze was still fixed on Gu Mengming. He sighed helplessly and said, What should I do? I was just worried about you back then. So, I followed you here in a moment of impulse. As for countermeasures, I totally didn't think about it. After all, according to my plan, Nina should have been the one to participate in this beauty pageant. Gu Mingming was a little flustered and started to regret asking Leah to execute Nina on a whim. At that time, she felt that she had thought it through thoroughly, but now, she was still not confident. After all, everything was only possible in theory. Damn it, Gu Mingming had never put into practice. But Leah did not give her a chance to think carefully as he walked towards the bed step by step. Gu Mingming watched as Leah approached and inched further into the bed, while Leah pressed his hands against the side of the bed before leaning his body forward. Gu Mingming moved back a little, and Leah moved forward a little, until Gu Mingming had shrunk to the corner of the wall and had no more room to retreat. Leah pressed his hands on both sides of Gu Mingming's ears and said innocently, "I am the witch doctor of Saint Nazir and also your beast pet. So, you will protect me, right?" What the hell? Wall slam. Where did he learn that? Gu Mingming pushed Lee's shoulders and laughed awkwardly. I definitely have to protect you. But can you not bring up the pet thing again? Leah lowered his head and looked at Gu Mingming's hand that was pushing against his chest. He deliberately used an extremely ambiguous tone and smile and said shyly, "You have touched me and slept with me. Everyone in the tribe saw you pouncing on me. Now, it's fine if you don't give me a status, but you won't even let me be a beast pet? Gu Mingming, are you really going to abandon me after using me?" Gu Mingming instinctively retracted her hand. God have mercy, she was just pushing, not touching. Chapter 373. Gu Mingming did not object. After all, facing a sleeping Leah was much easier than facing a awake Leah. She did not know how long had passed, but she knew that the sun was already setting in the west. The afterglow of the setting sun dyed the outside of the stone room that did not even have a curtain. The glow softened the curves of the stone room, making everything look much gentler. Gu Mingming's eyes were already used to night vision, but she still preferred the feeling of being under the sun. Just as she was in a daze, she saw someone walking in. She looked up and indeed met with a pair of blue eyes. "You're back." Gu Mingming smiled. Elvis looked at Leah, sleeping on Gu Mingming's knees, and was momentarily stunned. But it disappeared in a flash. He did not say anything and just nodded. Then he opened the bee skin bag he was carrying on his back. There were pieces of raw meat that had already been processed inside. The other bag contained some brightly colored and plump fruits. One look, and one could tell that they were the juicy, fragrant, and tasty type. Gu Mingming carefully moved Lee's head away and used a pillow to replace her legs. Then, she quietly walked down from the bed and leaned on the table to wipe the sweat off Elvis's forehead. She said, "Did you run back? Your forehead is full of sweat." Elvis smiled as he brought a fruit to Gu Mingming's mouth. With an expectant gaze, he gestured for her to taste it. He replied, "I was afraid that you would be anxious from waiting, so I wanted to come back quickly." Gu Mingming took a bite. It was indeed as sweet and juicy as expected. She smiled happily and pushed the fruit to Elvis's mouth. She said, "Oh, it's super delicious. You should try it too." Elvis did not bite the fruit. Instead, he turned his face and kissed Gu Mingming's lips. His nimble tongue invaded her mouth until all the air in her lungs was sucked dry. Then, he reluctantly let go of her. Then, he smiled and wiped the juice stains off the side of his mouth. He said gently, "Yes, it's very delicious." Gu Mingming bashfully punched Elvis's chest. She said coquettishly, "You're so annoying." Elvis used a tree branch to skewer the meat one by one. Then, he placed it at the side. He looked at Leah and said, "I'll go wake Leah up to cook for you. If not, you'll be hungry by the time the meat is done." Gu Mingming shook her head and said, "It's rare for him to sleep so peacefully. Don't disturb him. You start the fire, and I will roast the meat. I haven't cooked for you in a long time. Although my culinary skills are obviously not as good as Lee's, just treat it as a change of taste. Eating once in a while, the most important thing is the thought, right?" Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's cheek and said, The food you make is the most delicious food in this world. Nothing else can compare. It's just that I don't want you to work too hard. Gu Mingming smiled and pecked Elvis on the lips. Such a sweet mouth. I'll reward you with 2 more pieces later, all right. Elvis smiled as he carried Gu Mingming out of the stone house. Then he started to light a fire. Gu Mingming hummed a tune at the side as she started to rub salt on the meat, brush some honey, and sprinkle some chili on it. This was originally a daily scene, but it attracted many onlookers. More and more people came over, but no one dared to step forward to add flowers. Gu Mingming raised her head and noticed everyone's strange expression. She smacked her head and said, I forgot that everyone is afraid of fire. It's all right, don't be afraid. This is different from the flame demon. This is domesticated. It's very tame and doesn't bite. Aside from the topic, Gu Mingming, it's all right. Our fire is very obedient and doesn't usually bite people. Stop looking, let's go. Passerby asterisk in. Liar, Gu Mingming. I told you to stop looking, can't you hear me? Passerby asterisk in. You said it was very tame just now. Gu Mingming, what are you looking at? I'll set a fire and bite you if you keep looking. Passerby asterisk in. You said you wouldn't bite people just now. It was indeed all a lie. Chapter 374. The crowd still did not appreciate her kindness, and neither did they go near nor leave. They just maintained a distance of about 5 steps to watch. Gu Mingming sighed. Forget it, this was not Saint Nazir after all, and she could not care so much. With that thought, she no longer cared about how others would look at her. She just placed the roasting meat on the fire and chatted happily with Elvis as though there was no one else around. Everyone started whispering to each other. Gu Mingming actually could not hear what they were whispering about, but Elvis could hear it clearly. The smile on Elvis's face gradually faded. He took over the roasting meat from Gu Mingming's hands and said, Xiao Ming, let me do it. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis in shock and asked, Hubby, did I do something wrong? Why are you doing this to me? Elvis pursed his lips. He also knew that his cooking skills were really bad. The first time he roasted meat for Gu Mingming, she had diarrhea. The second time during winter, she even vomited. Why don't I wake Leah up? At most, I will keep watch at night and let him sleep again. Gu Mingming looked at Elvis and then at the crowd. She more or less understood why Elvis was like this. In the past, he had never insisted on such things. Gu Mingming would occasionally cook, and it was not hard for her. She would usually do it for fun, so Elvis basically did not stop her. Today's cover song must have been because of the crowd. Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms and asked with a smile, What did they say? Elvis pursed his lips and shook his head without answering. Gu Mingming twisted her body in Elvis's arms and said coquettishly, Good hubby, tell me, what did they say? Elvis could not resist Gu Mingming's coaxing and pestering and could only answer, They said that you must be too skinny and weak, so males despise you. That's why you only have 2 males protecting you. One of them is sleeping while the other is waiting to eat. They don't cherish you at all. It shows how miserable your life is. Elvis's brows furrowed together. He originally wanted his Xiao Ming to be envied by others, but now, Gu Mingming burst out laughing and said, These words must be said by females, right? Elvis nodded, not understanding. Gu Mingming smiled and said, It's all right. We don't have to care about these gossips. This is the typical twisted mentality of saying that the grapes are sour because they can't eat it. In my opinion, they're most likely envious that I have such a good husband like you, and that we have such a good relationship. That's why they said such things to deceive themselves and others to find a sense of superiority. As far as I know, females can't do whatever they want because there are many things that they simply don't know how to do. For example, something as simple as barbecuing meat. During the process of barbecuing, you can communicate with your partner and talk about the interesting things that happen throughout the day. After the meat is cooked, you can even share it. Although this amount is not enough for a male, it is a form of affection. Gu Mingming purposely raised her voice so that anyone who was not deaf could hear her. Gu Mingming kept the meat on the roasting rack and secretly tore off a piece of roasted meat from the side. She blew on it before passing it to Elvis and said with a smile, "Hubby." Ah, Elvis blushed and took over the small piece of meat from her hands. Aside from the topic, author mushroom, Gu Ming Ming. You are attracting hatred, Gu Ming Ming. Why? You don't allow people to flaunt their love? Author mushroom. Those who flaunt their love will die faster. Gu Ming Ming. Io, this single dog has such a strong sour smell. Author mushroom. Flips table. Gu Ming Ming. I will write you to death. Gu Ming Ming flicked her fingers nonchalantly and said, Do you think Elvis will agree? Author mushroom. I will write Elvis to death too. Gu Ming Ming smiled sinisterly. The ending of this novel is that the author envies Gu Ming Ming's blissful married life, so she wrote the male and female protagonist to death. Do you think the readers will agree? Author mushroom. Gu Ming Ming. I hate you. Chapter 375. Gu Ming Ming smacked a kiss on Elvis's face and said, Hubby is so obedient. After she said that, she looked around with a cold smile and said, If you have the guts, ask your own males if they are envious of my males. After Gu Ming Ming said that, a few females indeed turned around and exchanged a few words with their own males. Then, looking at the atmosphere, they knew the answer. Gu Ming Ming smiled and snuggled back into Elvis's arms. Her hands were still turning the roasted meat rack, but her mouth was not idle. She continued saying loudly, I only need to do such a simple thing, and I can make my partner the object of envy for all males. And I, myself, have this male that everyone else is extremely envious of. Why wouldn't I? Elvis's heart was filled with sweetness. He knew that Gu Ming Ming basically did not care what others thought of her, but she was willing to say such a long speech to a bunch of strangers because she cared about his feelings. Elvis kissed Gu Ming Ming's hair and said gently, Xiao Ming, thank you. Gu Ming Ming looked up and kissed Elvis's lips back. She said, Compared to what you did for me, this is nothing. No matter what others think, see, or say, the person who is going to spend the rest of your life with you is me. So what I think, what I see, and what I say is the most important, isn't it? Yes, my queen. Elvis smiled. The females were obviously angry. They turned around and left. Some of the more hot-tempered ones directly ran away in tears. The males naturally followed, nervously, and just like that, they all dispersed. Gu Ming Ming and Elvis finally had some peace. They looked at each other for a long time and finally burst out laughing. And on the roof of the stone house, Ian was standing in the shadows. Leah, who was lying on his side on the bed with his eyes wide open, had an indescribable, complex look in their eyes. Was it envy? Or was it jealousy? Or both? The next morning, when Gu Ming Ming woke up, Elvis was sitting by the bed with his brows furrowed and looking at the door sternly. Gu Ming Ming followed his gaze but could only see Li's back figure blocking the door tightly. His furry big tail blocked the door so that not even a mosquito could fly in. What's wrong? Gu Ming Ming asked softly. Elvis seemed to have just realized that Gu Ming Ming had woken up. He hurriedly hid his dark face and took the bee-skin coat from the bedside to help Gu Ming Ming wear it. Then, he said, Sauter's leader is here. Leah is blocking them outside. Sauter's leader? What are you here for? Gu Ming Ming asked as she put on her clothes. I think it's because of the roast last night, Elvis replied. Gu Ming Ming said, What? Because I made the onlookers cry when I was roasting meat. So they came to find trouble with me? Do I have to go from house to apologize? I'm telling you, I'm not going. I didn't ask them to come and watch. They came on their own. If they want to watch, then let them watch. I didn't even confiscate the ticket and just let them watch, but they still think they're blind. I'm already very restrained by not beating them up. There's no way I can apologize. I'm not going. Chapter 376. Gu Ming Ming looked at Elvis, twitched her lips, and slapped her forehead. I forgot that both of you have amazing hearing. Now, I am too embarrassed to scold him for eavesdropping on us. Sigh. Ninth brother, since the little female is awake, can I go in? That elegant voice sounded again. Leah did not give in at all. He just said coldly, Leader Cole, please forgive me. My little female is more delicate and has a bad temper. If someone she doesn't want to see enters, Leah stopped halfway through his sentence, while Elvis, who was in the house, suddenly released a large amount of pressure in unison. Gu Mingming was still sitting on the bed when she heard the sound of something falling on the ground outside the house. Gu Mingming finally understood. Elvis and Leah had developed a tacit understanding over so many years. Other than fighting, picking up girls, managing the tribe, they even had a godly coordination when it came to acting cool. Elvis's pressure did not seem to scare off the person who was called Leader Cole by Leah at the door, only to hear him speaking in a calm tone. Females are naturally precious. It's normal for them to have a temper. Although I am the leader of Sauter, I have no intention of offending you. Didn't you guard the door for so long just because of the word request to see? Gu Mingming muttered in her heart. Didn't Leah say that the snow foxes of Sauter were extremely arrogant? Didn't they look down on everyone else other than herself? Why? Did he give in to food after seeing that she knew how to roast meat? Was he the same as Sandy? Anyone who had food was a good person? Elvis whispered into Gu Mingming's ear. I'm afraid they are here for the fire. Gu Mingming was stunned. Then she realized that the main point was not the roast meat, but the fire used to roast it. It was said that it was the heavy weapon used by the previous messenger of the beast deity to rule the beast world. It was originally guarded by the snow foxes of Sauter for generations, but for some unknown reason, it was extinguished, and then there was no more holy fire. That's right. How could it be so easy to guard a fire? It could be extinguished with just a short nap. Gu Mingming nodded, wore her clothes, and shot a look at Elvis, telling him not to worry, it would be fine. After all, Gu Mingming had wanted to meet the leader of Sauter. From Dumbo to Alley, it was impossible for him to pretend that he was fine, wasn't it? So, Gu Mingming cleared her throat and called out to Leah, saying, Those who visit are guests. It's not good not to meet them. However, this is a place where females live after all, so it's really inconvenient for me to invite you in. Please wait for a moment. I'll come out right away. Everything is for the little female's convenience. As a male, it is an honor for me to wait. Cole's tone was still warm, humble, and polite. Although they had not met, Gu Mingming had a rather good impression of this Cole. At least he was very gentlemanly and did not make others feel disgusted or guarded against him. Elvis helped Gu Mingming wear her boots and then tidied up her clothes. Only then did he feel assured and let her get down from the ground. He followed behind Gu Mingming and walked out of the stone house. Chapter 377. The little female in front of him was exactly the same as the messenger of the beast deity he had imagined. No, she was more perfect than he had imagined. Cole was a little agitated. He nodded his head deeply at Gu Mingming as a way to return her smile. Then, he took a step back respectfully. May I know if I have the honor to know the name of this beautiful female? Gu Mingming nodded. In the modern world, this kind of pickup line would be extremely lowly. But here, coupled with Cole's elegant appearance, Gu Mingming only felt that he was a gentleman. Gu Mingming smiled and nodded. Leader Cole, how do you do? I am Gu Mingming, a female representing Saint Nazir to participate in the beauty pageant. Sorry, Gu Mingming was too embarrassed to mention the title of the first beauty of the tribe. Damn, it was too Chinibu, too pretentious, too disgusting. Gu Mingming. Cole savored the name. He looked up at Gu Mingming's eyes and asked, Can I call you Agu? Gu Mingming did not suspect anything. Just as she was about to agree, Elvis and Leah answered in unison. No. Cole seemed very disappointed, but he could not do anything about it. He nodded. All right, then call me Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming did not know why these two fellows were so sensitive, but she was not used to a man giving her a nickname on their first meeting. So, she did not probe further. She just flipped the page and went straight to the main topic. Leader Cole, you came to find me early in the morning just to ask me if I roasted meat here last night? Gu Mingming glanced sideways at the pile of ashes in the corner. Isn't the answer obvious? You have been here for the whole morning. Don't tell me you didn't see it. No, I actually came because of another question. Cole said seriously. I heard the female accompanying you call you the messenger of the beast deity. Gu Mingming smiled. Did Cole really have nothing to do with Ellie, so he did not know? Or was he in cahoots with Ellie to trick her? Unable to see through this mail, Gu Mingming did not hide anything. If I am the messenger of the beast deity because I can light a fire, then I should be. This answer made Cole's blood boil. He clenched his fists in agitation. After taking 2 deep breaths, he said, "We need to carry out a ceremony to confirm your identity. If you are really the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Mingming did not say anything. She just lifted her chin and looked at Cole, as if waiting for him to continue. But Cole did not say anything. She just smiled and said, I. Gu Mingming did not say anything. With that, Cole placed his right hand on his left chest and bowed to Gu Mingming before turning to leave. But before he could take 2 steps, he suddenly stopped and looked at Leah. "Ninth brother, you haven't returned for so many years. You must miss Otter very much, right?" Gu Cole, the brother of you to Mo. Shao of IMO, he Shao of Gu of me. Master. Gu of to my Xiao Ming dotes on me very much. She can't not see me for even a moment. Cole frowned and started sizing up Gu Mingming. He asked in confusion, "Have already mated?" Gu Mingming's expression changed. Leah shook his head. He smiled brightly and innocently like a child. "I didn't mate. I am Xiao Ming's beast pet." Aside from the topic, high energy warning ahead. Chapter 378. Gu Mingming jumped up and hooked her arms around Lee's neck. She covered his mouth and laughed awkwardly. Leader Cole, since you still have things to do, we shall not waste your time. Please go ahead, please go ahead." With that, without waiting for Cole's reply, she carried Lee's head back to the stone house. After sneaking a few glances to make sure that Cole had left, Gu Mingming then released Lee's neck and glared angrily. "Are you done? Must you announce to the world that you are my beast pet so that no female would want you in the future? Are you happy? Let me tell you, if you want to use this method to make me feel guilty, then let me tell you, you are thinking too much. It is your choice to not take your own life seriously. I will not be responsible for your choice. Do you hear me?" Leah was as obedient as a primary school student. He stared at the angry Gu Mingming with deep affection and smiled blissfully. "Hey, I'm talking to you. Why are you smiling?" Gu Mingming looked at Lee's joyful look and was even more furious. Leah looked at Elvis and asked, "So this is how it feels to be reprimanded by Gu Mingming. No wonder you always make mistakes in front of her and make her shout." The veins on Gu Mingming's forehead instantly bulged, and she placed her hands on her waist. "Am I praising you?" Leah took a step forward and bent down slightly, sending his ear to Gu Mingming. His eyes curved into a bridge, and he said in an expectant tone, "Do you want to pinch my ear? It looks quite painful, but I still want to experience it." Gu Mingming was so angry that she did not know how to get angry. She blinked her eyes at Leah and asked, "Are you a damn masochist? Do you have masochistic tendencies?" Leah thought about it seriously, then nodded his head and said, "Only towards you. I like it when you're angry at me, because when you're angry, that pair of beautiful eyes will focus on me. Although it is a little scary when you look like you can shoot fire from your eyes, but the danger is very beautiful and makes one addicted." As Leah said that, he gently caressed Gu Mingming's cheeks. That pair of narrow and affectionate eyes clearly reflected Gu Mingming's slightly sympathetic expression, as if she was looking at an idiot. However, Lee's lips curved upwards, and he took a deep breath, enjoying the fragrance that permeated the air that belonged to her. After reminiscing for a while, he then continued, "If you will also pull my ears and scold me, if you will also throw potatoes, sweet potatoes, and salted fish at me, if you will also set 3 rules with me, ordering me not to use you as a bet, not to say that it doesn't matter whether you like me or not to abandon you, that will be even more blissful." Leah leaned closer to Gu Mingming. Gu Mingming could even clearly feel the temperature of Lee's breath and his unique scent. Lee's gaze was filled with pleading, with a tinge of resentment and anticipation. He asked softly, "Hey, satisfy me too, all right?" Satisfy what? Gu Mingming took a step back and lost her balance, almost falling. Leah quickly grabbed onto Gu Mingming's waist and pulled her inwards. Gu Mingming's abdomen was pressed tightly against Li's abdomen. This position caused Gu Mingming's feet to be unable to land on the ground. After kicking twice, it made her look even more comical. Gu Mingming pouted and shouted at Elvis, "Hubby, he is already teasing me like this. Aren't you going to have any reaction at all?" Aside from the topic, today's 9 chapters are over, babies. Continue tomorrow. Yeah. I know. It's not satisfying enough. I will try to save more manuscripts and wait for the editor to inform me when I want to add more chapters. All right? Be obedient and hand over all your tickets. It was said that only works with good rankings would have the right to be recommended. With recommendations, there will be more chapters. So, do you guys understand now? Huh? Where are the tickets? Chapter 379. Elvis thought about it and walked forward. He hugged Gu Mingming into his arms with one hand and twisted Li's ear with the other. Then, he said expressionlessly, "Since Xiao Ming isn't willing, then I'll satisfy you. It's about the strength. Are you happy now?" Leah slapped Elvis's hand away and turned around, saying, "You can't make me feel happy and satisfied. I'm not interested in males." Huffed. Ha! Gu Mingming laughed like an idiot and trembled in Elvis's arms. When she finally stopped laughing, Leah came in with breakfast for her. Ian caught some fish at the river before the sky brightened. Leah removed the fish bones and boiled it with sweet potatoes to make a porridge-like paste. He mixed some honey into it before bringing it to Gu Mingming. He scooped a little with a small spoon and blew on it to warm it. Then, he brought it to Gu Mingming's mouth, saying, "Ah." Gu Mingming reached out to take the bowl and said, No need. I can do it myself. I'm in good shape. I'm not a vegetable." But Leah dodged and looked at Gu Mingming sadly, saying, "You promised me in the past to treat yourself as a severely handicapped person who can't take care of himself and let me take care of you in everything." Gu Mingming clicked her tongue and said, "Let's not talk about the past. We can still be friends." Leah swayed his tail happily and said, "This is what you said. Let's not talk about the past. We can all start afresh." Gu Mingming said, "Hey, don't change my original words. I said, we can still be friends. Who said anything about starting afresh?" Leah said, "Didn't we start as friends in the past? If we can still be friends, doesn't that mean we can start afresh?" Gu Mingming said, "Everything that happened before this year's spring is called the past. Just let it go with the wind, and neither of us will mention it again, okay?" Leah mumbled something, but Gu Mingming did not hear it clearly. It was just some grumbling, and Gu Mingming did not pursue it further. She just asked in an emphatic tone, "Okay?" Leah nodded and said with some grievance, "If we don't mention the past, can we talk about the new things?" Gu Mingming nodded and made a pleased gesture. Leah pointed at Elvis and said, "Elvis humiliated me just now. He touched my ears. If this gets out, I won't be able to be a fox anymore." Sob. As the head of the family, shouldn't you comfort my wounded heart? Gu Mingming really wanted to maintain a stern image, but she could not hold it in. She doubled over in laughter on the bed, slapping her thighs while saying, "I knew there was something going on between you two. Elvis's face darkened as he carried Gu Mingming, who was crying from laughing so hard. He tilted her little chin and forced her to look at him. He clenched his teeth and said, "Other than you, I have never slept with anyone else." Gu Mingming looked at Elvis's darkened face and tried to hold back her laughter. But the more she tried, the more she wanted to laugh. In the end, she could only tremble until it was vibrating. Elvis sighed. He could not do anything to Gu Mingming and could only turn to look at Leah. "Can you stop saying things that will cause Xiao Ming to misunderstand? It was not easy for me to prove that we are innocent, but if you say the same thing, she will." Leah did not buy it. He placed the cold porridge in the spoon into his mouth and tasted it. The taste was not bad. It should be the type that Gu Mingming liked. Then, he scooped another spoonful of porridge and blew on it before answering Elvis. "Are we innocent?" Aside from the topic. Chapter 380. Gu Mingming instantly stopped smiling. Like a frightened rabbit, she straightened her back and looked back and forth between Elvis and Leah with her big round eyes. After a while, she pointed at Elvis and roared, "If you don't give me a clear explanation today, I won't let you off." Elvis was stunned. Elvis opened his arms and caught Gu Mingming, who was pouncing towards him steadily. He let her mess around his arms and smiled dotingly. Occasionally, he would look up at Leah, who was jealous that day. Only when Gu Mingming was tired of messing around did he stroke her hair and said, "When Leah and I founded St. Nazir, our territories were all snatched from other tribes. There were fair duels, and there were times when we used underhanded methods. So, we really can't be considered innocent. But it is definitely not what you think." Elvis supported Gu Mingming's little but with one hand and lifted her chin with the other. With a slight sense of punishment, he kissed Gu Mingming's delicate lips and only released her when her face turned red. He said, "This is the last time I am going to explain this. If you dare to let your imagination run wild in the future, I will punish you by making you unable to get off the bed for 3 days. You will have to personally experience who I am having an affair with." Sob, sob, sob. Her partner's husbandly power suddenly exploded. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. Gu Mingming hugged Elvis's neck timidly and replied coquettishly, "Yeah, hubby, I won't think anymore. My hubby is so handsome. He's practically a walking hormone. How can he be gay? Straighter than steel bars." Elvis also did not know what she was talking about, but seeing her obedient and adorable look, he enjoyed it. So he sighed and put her on the bed without his black face. He took the porridge bowl from Lee's hands and said, "The temperature of the porridge is just right. I will feed you." No need, no need. How can I let hubby handle such a small matter? I can do it myself. Gu Mingming reached out to take the porridge bowl, but Elvis sent a spoonful of porridge directly into his mouth and then passed it into Gu Mingming's mouth with his lips. "I've said it before, I already have the qualifications to take care of you. You can't refuse me." Elvis's eyelids drooped slightly, hiding most of the blue glow in his eyes, but turning his tenderness into water, flowing into Gu Mingming's ears. "If you're not used to me feeding you with a spoon, then let's change to another method that I prefer. How about that?" Blushing, Gu Mingming leaned into Elvis's arms obediently and said, "Let's just use a spoon. It's better. It's more efficient." Elvis patted Gu Mingming's little head and kissed her hair. Then he started to feed spoonfuls of fish and sweet potato porridge into Gu Mingming's mouth. Gu Mingming was eating and did not have the time to speak, so Elvis spoke on her behalf. "Leah, what is the ritual that Cole mentioned just now? You specifically stayed behind to tell Xiao Ming about this, right?" Leah nodded. He really wanted to use proper business to distract himself, but he could not hide the envy in his eyes. Chapter 381. WHY? Gu Mingming swallowed a mouthful of porridge and asked, "Leah, because the previous messenger of the beast deity said that the real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoterica." With that, Leah looked at Gu Mingming attentively, as if waiting for her to say what was written in the esoterica. Gu Mingming was dumbfounded. She really did not know what the esoterica was. 9 Manual, or Buddha's palm? Damn, she was not mentally prepared at all when she transmigrated. She swam here and did not meet the legendary almighty beast deity at all. No one had ever told her that there was such a thing as an esoterica. Gu Mingming complimented him and asked, "If I can't answer, will I be treated as a witch and burned to death?" Leah and Elvis looked at each other and smiled. Females who can't answer will be treated as looking down on the beast deity and will be punished. But Elvis and I will protect you. No one can hurt you. Gu Mingming held her forehead with one hand and said helplessly, "If we decide to escape now, isn't it too late?" As they were talking, Cole's voice sounded from the door again. "Don't worry. Just because you can summon the flame demon, solder will not make things difficult for you." Gu Mingming was stunned and glared at Elvis and Leah. What was wrong with these two? Why didn't they remind her that someone was eavesdropping? Clearing her throat awkwardly, Gu Meng Meng said, "No, I'm not worried." Cole seemed to chuckle and said, "The ceremony is ready. Can we go over now?" Gu Meng Meng grabbed onto Elvis's hand nervously. Elvis held onto her little hand and pulled her into his arms, hugging her firmly. Leah, on the other hand, followed behind Elvis and walked out of the stone house. Cole gave a simple bow to Gu Meng Meng. It was not much respect, but just basic courtesy. This made Gu Meng Meng feel very comfortable. If it was too grand, she would feel awkward. Under Cole's lead, the group arrived at a place similar to the platform of the deity's punishment in St. Nazaire. The surroundings were completely surrounded, and there was only a path wide enough for one person to pass through. Cole was the first to step onto the platform. He then gestured for Gu Meng Meng to come up. Just as Elvis was about to carry Gu Meng Meng up, Leah pulled him back. Only the tribe leader and the messenger of the beast deity can enter this place. If anyone else steps in, they will be treated as disrespecting the beast deity. Elvis raised his eyebrows, as if he didn't care. Leah said, "You will only make things difficult for Meng Meng if you insist on going up. Trust her. She'll be fine. If there really is something, you and I are right here. It's just a step away." Elvis looked at Gu Meng Meng again, and she gave him its all-right smile before jumping down from Elvis's arms and walking towards the platform of the deity's punishment. There was a book enshrined on the platform of the deity's punishment. Due to the passage of time, it was severely damaged. The paper was yellowish and brittle, as if it could not even withstand a gust of wind. However, why does the cover of that book look so familiar? Where have I seen it before? Peasant. Cole opened his mouth. His voice was sonorous and forceful, as though he was reciting some sacrificial rites. Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. She looked at Cole, not understanding why he was suddenly spouting nonsense. "Peasant," Cole repeated again, before staring at Gu Meng Meng fixedly. Gu Meng Meng's eyes drifted towards Leah, thinking to herself, they were indeed from the same factory. They all had masochistic tendencies, asking her to punish them the moment they met. Should he wave a leather whip or drip wax? Gu Meng Meng shook her head. "Subordinate? Leader Cole must be joking. I'm just a little female in St. Nazaire. How would I dare to order you to be my subordinate?" Cole wanted to say more, but Gu Meng Meng interrupted him and continued. "This is the ceremony over? You don't have to burn me, do you? Can I go now? My maid is still waiting for me there." "Great messenger." Cole took a step forward and stood in front of Gu Meng Meng. He lowered his head respectfully and said, "Since the great messenger has returned, you should naturally stay and solder. This is your tribe. As for your partner, he can stay with you." Gu Meng Meng raised her brow. "What if I don't agree? Are you going to force me to stay?" Cole lowered his head and said, "I don't dare to." But even though he said that, his body was like a towering ancient tree, not moving an inch. Aside from the topic, about this esoteric book. Chapter 383. Gu Meng Meng smiled and patted Cole's shoulder lightly. "It's best if you don't dare to. After all, if you anger me, it won't do you any good." With that, she walked past Cole and walked down the platform. Elvis caught Gu Meng Meng steadily and carried her in his arms. He turned around and left, not caring about what was happening behind him. Leah did not say anything and just followed behind Gu Meng Meng quietly. The group returned to the small stone house that Gu Meng Meng stayed in previously. After entering the house, Leah asked, "That esoteric manual, you don't want it?" Gu Meng Meng smiled. "Are you interested in that esoteric manual?" Leah nodded his head honestly, and Gu Meng Meng replied with an understood expression. Then she said, "I'm lying when I said that I can recite all 300 Tang poems, but it's a given that I can recite the more familiar ones. Coincidentally, I know both poems that Leader Cole tested me on today." I stopped him from asking because I was afraid that he would ask something unpopular and I would not be able to memorize it. But if you're interested, I can teach you when I teach Huda and his brothers. Gu Meng Meng sat on the bed. The more she thought about it, the funnier she felt. She waved at Elvis and Leah. "I finally know why the previous messenger of the beast deity said, The real messenger of the beast deity would definitely know the contents of the esoteric manual. Damn it, at my place, all the children who graduated from kindergarten can memorize these Tang poems. No matter how bad their studies are, they would definitely be able to memorize these few poems. So, I now believe that you guys said that I am the messenger of the beast deity. Leah and Elvis looked at each other and exchanged glances. Leah asked, "Then what do you plan to do next?" Gu Mengmeng shrugged. "I'll first participate in the beauty pageant and bring the person I like back to Saint Nazir." Leah frowned. "You directly said that you don't want to stay in solder today. I'm afraid that Cole will not let you off so easily." Gu Mengmeng thought about it and replied, "I think he is quite a gentleman. He doesn't look like he would do anything scary." But Leah gave a bitter smile. "Have you forgotten? The Snow Fox tribe is the best at reading people's minds. This level of disguise is nothing to him." Gu Mingming thought about it again. He would dedicate a book of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty for 1,000 years. Gu Mingming smiled and patted Li's shoulder. "Don't worry too much. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. My identity was announced in public today, and the whole world's eyes are probably on Sauter now. If I were to make any mistake in Sauter, his life would be worse than anyone else's. Therefore, he probably wouldn't dare to use force. Even if we take 10,000 steps back and say that he really has evil intentions and wants to play dirty with us, haha, what if I am in a bad mood and accidentally burn down his solder? What should I do then?" Seeing Gu Mengming's cheerful look, Leah did not say anything else. Some things should be shouldered by males. It would be best for her to be happy and carefree like this forever. The date of the beauty pageant was 3 days after Gu Mingming's identity was exposed. In these 3 days, the 3 words Saint Nazir became the hottest topic on the streets. Actually, there was not much meaning in this competition anymore, because not only the males, even the females who came to participate in the competition expressed their intention to join them. In other words, as long as Gu Mengming nodded, everyone in Sauter could be brought back to Saint Nazir in one fell swoop. Beauty pageant. Was there still a need to choose? Aside from the topic, Gu Mengming, hoeing the fields at noon. Steamed bun *4. Ow, 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 Leah. I want to be the peasant, you be the noon. Gu Mengming rolled her eyes at Leah and changed to another Tang dynasty poem. The sun shines on the mountain in the daytime. The yellow river flows into the sea. Steamed bun *4. Ow, 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 Leah. I want to be the yellow river. You be the sea. Gu Mengming slammed the table and changed to another one. 2 orioles chirping in the green willow, a row of egrets soaring into the blue sky. Steam Bun did not say anything and just turned to look at Leah. Leah smiled and said, "Change it, a white fox soaring into the blue sky. How about that? You be the blue sky." Gu Mengming's face darkened and she changed to another one. The winding path leads to a secluded place. The meditation room is full of flowers and trees. Leah simply stood up and hugged Gu Mengming's waist, saying, "I am the winding path through." Huh, how about that? Gu Mengming flipped the table and said angrily, "Can you still learn Tang dynasty poems happily? You have worshipped the esoterica for thousands of years. Where is your piety? Where is the respect you promised?" Chapter 384. A beauty pageant had successfully turned into a recruitment fair for Saint Nazir because of Gu Mengming's exposure. The first news was personally announced by Gu Mengming. This time, she was only releasing 50 slots. That meant that everyone who wanted to join Saint Nazir had to fight for the slot. Only those who successfully obtained the slot would have the right to join Saint Nazir. This was different from the past when the strongest chose the tribe. The primary and secondary relationship had been reversed, and the tribe chose the strongest. Elvis and Leah did not quite understand Gu Mengming's decision. Wasn't it better to have more strong males? Why did she only accept 50? However, Gu Mengming smiled. Quality, quality. Quality comes before quantity. Only when there is a qualitative change can there be a qualitative change. If you're not good at it, what's the use of having more? Elvis completely could not understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative changes. He could only nod. Whatever you say, I'll listen to you. The tribe leader and first partner did not have any objections. Leah, the witch doctor and beast pet that could not be recognized, naturally did not have any room to raise any objections. Hence, the matter of the slots was decided. The first question that Gu Mingming gave was a day's hunt starting from sunrise and ending at sunset. The top 10 with the most prey would obtain the slots to join. Hence, on the first day, almost all the males in the city came out of their nests. Even the males who originally accompanied the females to participate in the beauty pageant had actively participated in it. In the past, only the beautiful females would join a tribe and the males would follow. This was the first time a female wanted to join a tribe. Her own males had to have the ability to obtain a slot before she could join as a family member. Joining the messenger's tribe meant that they would be able to live a better life. Females naturally encouraged males to fight for it, especially when they heard that only the top 10 could obtain a slot. Hence, they were even more determined. Competition was a woman's nature. Be it in the present or ancient times, ordinary people or orcs, it was the same. Hence, the males risked their lives to hunt for prey outside while the females dressed themselves up beautifully. If there was no partner in the top 10, then they would just choose one on the spot. They were all the first beauties of their respective tribes. They had blind confidence in this aspect and believed that as long as they beckoned, no males would reject them. Compared to those who stretched their necks to wait for the results, the atmosphere at Gu Mingming's side was much stranger. Leader Cole, is it really okay for you to do this? Gu Mingming looked at Cole, who had moved a small table and placed it outside her stone house. He then sat cross-legged in the corner of the wall, holding a yellowed 300 poems of the Tang dynasty, and looked up at Gu Mingming. She was really speechless. What happened to the promised high-end, elegant, black-bellied, tsundere, and profound? Could it be that the Snow Fox family's greatest weapon of destruction was this look of innocence in the eyes of an abandoned pet dog? If Lady Emissary doesn't want to stay, I don't dare to force you. However, as Lady Emissary's follower, no matter where Lady Emissary goes, I will follow. Cole nodded his head seriously and handed over the 300 poems of the Tang dynasty with both hands. This is the esoterica left behind by the previous great messenger. He had instructed us to let the new great messenger take a look. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.